Good Monday morning to you. It's very early. It's 7:03 in the morning. I'm Bob Dillner. Zach Evans alongside of me. We're here with the morning Bullring on Speed 51. Mark Keeler in the house as well. Good morning to you, Mark. He's fumbling right now.
It's a dollar in the kitty. I forgot to unmute my mic. Good morning.
That's a good way to start. Dollar already in the kitty. What does
Yep.
that go to anyway?
We haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
We were talking one day when you weren't here. I suggested to Mark we should put it to charity at the end of the year or something. But he said that's too nice.
Oh.
So I don't know.
I want a meal.
That's
or
not
something,
Mark.
But
Right. So I don't know. We'll have to workshop that.
But wait a second. I'm most likely going to be the guy that puts the most in.
you already are.
Yeah, because I talk the most.
This is true.
So, Zach, if I walk off the show, can you handle the rest of the show so you can do it today? What do you think?
We can give it a shot. I can't promise what happens after you leave, but we can fill the airwaves until 10 o'clock for sure.
There'll be a show. It's just no telling what it'll actually be.
By the way, nobody would ever know that Zach Evans is 27 years
29.
old. 29.
Look at that
29.
Yeah, I
baby
didn't
face.
even know.
See?
29 years old. He's got the headphones in right now. He looks like he's going to be going through a mall and listening to some tunes and that sort of thing and having a good day and so forth. Nobody would ever believe that Zach Evans is 29 years old.
The worst part about that is this is my playoff beard. I have not shaved since the start of playoffs, and you cannot. I've got the 15-year-old peach fuzz right here. I don't even know if it picks up on our cameras.
It doesn't.
But,
No,
yeah,
it
10-4.
it doesn't. You don't even have to shave, right?
No, pretty much. No, I do it more because it starts to annoy me, but nobody can tell by looking at me. So it's a once every 2 months thing anyway.
That must be nice.
It's a lot cheaper than the alternative for sure.
Well, I was going to ask you how your weekend was, but I know not to ask Mark because Mark just likes driving,
Ooh.
right?
Yeah, a lot of driving. Me and Wesley Outland, the road trip crew, and that's a lot of driving to see one race.
The good thing about Wesley Outland is that when you drive with him, you have no fear of ever falling asleep
None.
because
No.
he just talks all the time.
Yes.
No,
So-
there was actually quite because you know me. I'm one week. I can drive for hours and not say a word. No radio, no nothing. So it was quite the drastic change from the week prior when we were all driving back from Nashville. And if you follow any of us on Twitter, then then you got to see that road trip in the middle of the night. So it was quite a contrast from that because I don't talk a lot, but he definitely kept me awake. So. Yeah, he did a couple Facebook Lives, things like that. So you never know what's
Oh,
going
my
to happen.
gosh.
All of a sudden, the radio goes down, the window goes up, and all you hear is, "Hi, it's Wesley Outland," and you realize he's on Facebook Live. And it's like, okay, here we go. So
Oh, my.
gotta love Wesley.
The thing we don't love is Mother Nature. And if you look, we have this spreadsheet on Speed 51. And, my wife and I were talking about this yesterday. If you go back through to the beginning of April, weather and Mother Nature here in not only this part of the country, which is the southeast, we're located in Concord, North Carolina, but across the nation has been downright miserable, awful to some degree. Mother Nature has been absolutely disrespectful to short track racing fans in America. And this weekend was no different. I'm calling tracks and promoters and finding out, are you running, who's running, this and that, throughout the week, and then, of course, throughout the weekend. And, Mark, there's the schedule right there.
There we
And
go.
you can see this past weekend.
Yeah, that's just this weekend.
Right. All the red signifies the events that were canceled. And if you go back through the previous weekend and through April, that's all you see. It's like a 50-50 shot, or maybe even 60% that Mother Nature has won these races and they've not occurred. That's how much red is on our schedule. It's nuts. So, Mark was a victim of circumstances of Mother Nature this past weekend. He did get one race in the books with
Yes.
you up at Ace.
Yes.
But then drove all the way to Tyler County Speedway in West Virginia. And
Pretty
when you-
much Ohio at that point.
Right.
And I get a text. We're 10 minutes from the track, and we just saw this. And the
Yeah.
event was canceled with a storm out of nowhere that just saturated the racetrack because it was going to be a great show for the Ultimate Northeast. Unfortunately, for the second week in a row, it was washed out by Mother Nature.
Yeah, and they were bummed out too because we went and continued on to the track so I could at least see it because we weren't that far anyways. And it wasn't a downpour. it was one of those just nasty, miserable rains that was relentless. So we walked around in the rain and got muddy. And basically their pit area was washed out. They lost the track. But talking to the Ultimate officials up there, and you could tell it was like a defeat on their face. They were so upset because they all wanted to race. And I would have loved to have seen a race at that track because that looks like a racy little place. It was pretty cool. Very old school racetrack. So it would have been good, but unfortunately,
you can't count the track.
No, I cannot, and
it.
I think that's what got me even more upset because I've been stuck at 102, and had I gotten all the rainouts in, I would have been at like 106 or 108 by now this year.
Yeah.
So.
Poor Mark Keeler.
Poor Mark
Who
Keeler.
drove all the way to West Virginia and couldn't count the racetrack in his racetrack count.
You know, sometimes you're the windshield and sometimes you're the bug.
Yeah.
And that was definitely.
I got to remember that.
That was a bug moment for sure.
Yeah, that definitely was. But unfortunately, that race has been canceled. Won't be made up, but there's plenty of racing going on at Tyler County Speedway, including the Great American Crate Race later on this year, coming up the second weekend of July, I believe it is. So that will be a darn good show for the Fast Track Racing Series. And a lot to talk about this morning besides Mother Nature, because we did get some racing in this past weekend. And for that, we're going to cue the music because it's time for the news here on the Morning Bullring. We're all kind of still waking up here. Here's Tom Ryan.
Mic check. Okay, I owe $1.
That's $1. Your first time doing the news, and it's $1.
Hey, if that's the worst thing that happens this morning with the news, we're good. On Friday night, for Speed 51 Network members, it was live on Speed 51 Network. The Dirt Kings Tour had the Rumble on the River at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Jake Tim, in his first dirt late model start, bested Jimmy Mars for the win. Highlights now available on the Speed 51 Network.
And I watched that race live on the Speed 51 Video Network as well. I tell you what, Mississippi Thunder Speedway is amazing. And Jeff Fisher set the record straight for me because Mark Keeler had all sorts of trouble. He thought Bob Dillner had a brain fart last week because he goes to make some of the player pages for the event.
100%.
And he sees Mississippi Thunder Speedway and Wisconsin together. Well, they're not together on the map of the United States, so he's like, something's wrong here. So he had to look it up. Neither one of us knew what the hell the racetrack was called Mississippi Thunder Speedway for. Well, Jeff Fisher is a smart man. I texted back and forth with him. And I said, how was the racetrack? He said, man, that was an awesome place. And then I said, man, it looked cool on the live video stream for that race on Friday night. We were one of the very few companies to be able to get their video streams in this weekend. And that Dirt Kings race was on Friday night. And he said, man, yeah, that place was pretty cool. It's just a stone's throw. You can see the Mississippi River from the racetrack. And I went, light bulb just went off. There it is, Mississippi River. It's right on the banks of the Mississippi River where it begins. Hence the name Mark Keeler, Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
I didn't even know the Mississippi went up to Wisconsin. So
It's right on the border of Wisconsin and Minnesota. And see, you learn something new every day, Tom Ryan.
Well, a good thing the naval guy was out there taking
Yes,
care
yes.
of us. So thanks, Jeff Fisher. At Ace Speedway, the late model stocks ran for 100 laps, and Ryan Millington wins, passing Jason York with 10 laps to go. Our Zach Evans was there, and he got the recap done. Highlights are also on the Speed 51 Network, and also R.D. Smith finished third.
R.D. Smith has been a regular up at Ace Speedway for since the prehistoric age.
And that really speaks volumes to Millington, not just to beat Jason York and R.D. Smith at Ace, a place where they both have had considerable success, but the way he did it. He ran a smart race, saved his stuff for the end. Ace, you really have to be cautious with your brakes. They have to be there at the end or they start glowing that cherry red like you can see in the highlights from Jason York's car. But Millington played the game right. He was there at the end and made the move for the win.
was it Millington and while everybody was on the track post race sitting there? Actually, it was the second place runner,
York.
which was York, where everybody's sitting there getting pictures of Millington, and all of a sudden you hear this big boom, the left front tire, the brakes were so hot that after they parked on the front stretch out of the cars, everybody was, hobnobbing around and hanging out. The left front tire blew sitting second on the grid. That's how hot it was.
Wow. And you guys you let my prehistoric comment go right over your head. What that also means is R.D. Smith is getting old.
Well,
he's got great looking race cars.
Is he as old as Tom, though?
No, nobody's quite as old as Tom.
Oh, that hurts.
He can't hit me because we're on camera.
Yeah, that's right. No,
I'm
he
just
can't.
going to leave this one
That
up.
would be actually good. That might go viral. You might want to start.
Good idea.
Normally he's yelling at us not to fight. Now he wants it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Right. Zach Evans, do you remember who won the modified race at Ace Speedway? Because I haven't gotten there yet for the news. Anyway.
On the spot.
At Eldora.
They had 10 cars.
Yeah. At Eldora, the World of Outlaws and the USAC Nation got at least Friday night in.
Yeah.
And
before Mother Nature spoiled Saturday.
Yeah, they got some heats in at least on Saturday, but still a huge bummer for all those guys, everybody out at Eldora. Donnie
Sunshine.
Schatz, and Donnie Schatz won in the sprint, the World of Outlaws sprint cars, and Sunshine bested Kevin Thomas for the win on the fast high banks of Eldora Speedway.
You know how I knew that some of the racing got in on Friday night? The Sith Lord, Matt Weaver, with his hood and his fancy selfie was there, and that's how I knew that. He did a little interview with old Donnie Schatz after that one.
Oh, did he?
He did.
Great.
He's starting to become a dirt fan.
Well,
everybody's turning to the dirt.
Normally, if you're a race fan, I don't understand why everybody just doesn't get along. Let's get along,
That's right.
everybody.
Start playing the music. Let's get along. Anyway,
right.
go ahead.
So-
Too early in the
Facebook will
morning.
shut us down.
Yeah,
on that one.
absolutely.
Yeah,
That's true. By the way, Wesley Weed is watching this morning. The tire guru himself. Good morning, Wesley. Bob Stone, and even my brother, Matthew Dillner, while he's preparing for the Dale Jr. download, because Dale Jr., Mike Davis, they all do that every single week on a Monday. Works very long hours, but appreciate you watching, Matt.
So speaking of Wesley Weed, he was out at Yakima, Washington this weekend.
Was he?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's what he told me in Nashville the previous week. And Apple Cup, I was wondering if he was working on Garrett Evans' car, because guess who
Usually
ended up
is.
in Victory Lane?
Garrett Evans.
That's right. Big win for him this year.
How old is he
He's
now?
29.
Yeah. Actually, we found somebody older than you, I think.
Oh, boy.
oh wow. This is a rough show for Tom.
Speaking of age, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there a day late. Yeah.
What's that have to do with age?
Well, you got to be old to be a mother.
Yeah, absolutely.
really.
I tell my mom she's
Yeah.
old, but we kid because we care.
My mom's 27, so.
27 years old. So you're older than she is.
Oh, yeah, by double.
Yeah, you're an old dude.
Literally.
Yep.
Whoa. No, nobody do the math.
You're a half a century.
Almost. So are you. Almost. Not quite as old as me, though. All right. The pass north was in Epping, New Hampshire at Star Speedway, where DJ Shaw passed Derek Randstrom on lap 118 of 150. We have highlights on the Speed 51 network. Not to mention, it's a great story about DJ Shaw. He had a very busy day. That's another great story on the Speed 51 website you can check out.
Well, technically, it's a recap. That is.
Well, we also have a recap also.
Yeah.
No highlights yet. Highlights are enough.
Correct. You're right.
Oh, this was an
You got
email
the-
last
yeah.
night.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, that's an inside joke a little bit. But
Wow.
yeah, the recap is up, so you can hear all the interviews, watch all the interviews on the Speed 51 video network. DJ Shaw, his car looked a little bit mangled there.
Everybody. That was a rough one, but it was entertaining as all heck to watch live on the network.
And yeah, that was live on the network. Thank you, Mark. You
I got
finished
your back.
exactly what I was going to say.
Cool racetrack, too. Star Speedway, Epping, New Hampshire. Quarter mile, no
Yes.
wall on the backstretch. That place is just amazing.
Yeah, Brandon Paul
Paul.
was the man out there at the track, and we had a nice conversation on the way home from the racetrack for him. He was yawning a little bit, so it was nice that I could get to keep him up for his short commute home, unlike what we did last week at Nashville. The ACT Tour was at White Mountain, and Scott Paella wins. Our Connor Sullivan was there covering all the action. You can see the highlights also on the Speed 51 network.
We're going to have to clarify with Brandon because I've always called him Scott Paya. And then I think he said it's Scott Paye. So when we get him on the PFC Performance Hotline after your news, we're going to have to clarify it because that's a name that just
It can
doesn't
go both ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yep.
In the Spring Sizzler in Connecticut, where our
Finally.
con dog is from, Doug Kobe wins his 4th. Not bad for the 5-time champion.
The greatest race of spring, the Spring Sizzler. So says Ben Dodge, the veteran and just legendary announcer up there from New England. But,
It was
Love
almost the
listening.
greatest race of summer this year. Being
Yes,
rained
it
out
was.
3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, that's nuts. And it was rained out Friday night as well because they were scheduled to go Friday night, which is the normal night for Stafford Motor Speedway just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. You know, Connor Sullivan right now is just going nuts. He's like, they're talking about Stafford Motor Speedway. He's probably excited. Maybe he's not even up. I don't know. Is he watching? Connor, are you watching this morning on the Morning Bullring? That's the big question.
Con dog.
Yeah.
All right, and in the Tundra Series at Wisconsin International Raceway, another race on the Speed 51 network. We have highlights. David Prunty ends up in victory lane after his trip down to Nashville a week ago.
David.
Is that Dennis's brother?
Dennis, sorry.
$3.
Say, David, I know Alex and I know Dennis. I didn't know David.
Nope.
But
Well,
Wrong.
you're probably drinking with Prunty afterwards in celebration of his victory and just misdid the D name.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It happens, when you get old.
Yeah, that's true. That's
I'm not
true.
there yet, so I'll let you know.
Whatever.
Tom Ryan with the news this morning here on the Morning Bullring. And Zach has been just patient. He's been looking at me going, I want to talk. I want to talk. What do you want to say? What is so important?
Important update. And we
Okay.
know how important things are when we preface them with important on the Morning
What are you trying to
Bullring.
say?
I did the math, and at the same time, Wesley Weed confirmed in the Facebook chat, Garrett Evans, 63 years young.
63 years young. You're not that old. See, I told you we found somebody actually older than you. That's incredible. By the way, if you can, comment, ask us questions, whatever it may be, on our Facebook Live post, on Twitter. We have a team of people. Hopefully it's Connor Sullivan, Alec Jorgensen, and Brandon Paul this morning, actually manning the social media. So ask some questions. Let us know where you're watching from. And also share this Facebook post. We want to spread the word of short track racing. We're all about hashtag more short tracks. Make sure you use that in coordination with your tweets when talking about short track racing, because we are 100% short track racing. Pavement or dirt, doesn't matter.
Connor is watching.
Connor is watching.
And
love
he
that.
says Tom butchered that name.
Tom did.
Notice I didn't try
But that's
it, but Tom
okay.
butchered it.
Well, I had to think for a little bit because I've never heard of David. I'm like, David Prunty. Oh, wait, was that another Prunty that's running? Because Alex runs.
Right.
Okay. Obviously, Dennis runs in the Anderson's maple syrup car. Good looking machine, by the way. Had a little trouble at Nashville, so it was nice to see him rebound to get the victory in the Tundra Super Late Model Series opener. And Tundra is really growing in the Midwest.
absolutely
It's nice to see that series grow like it is. Kind of an independent series from that part of the country. So nice to see them get their season underway. A lot more racing to come, a lot more to talk about as well. But right now, is the PFC Performance Hotline ready?
yes.
Yes. See, I should not have done that. What I should have done to get another $1 in the pot is not told them we were going to that. But Brandon Paul on the line. Good morning, Brandon.
Good morning, and Tom butchered that name. I've never heard that, pronouncing it that way. It's Scott Paye. And the thing that people get confused with, his car owner and his crew chief is Rick Paya from RPM Engines. So there's a little confusion there, but I've never heard the extra A put on the end of it. So, but Tommy did a good job with the news. I was impressed.
I am too. He's got a future in front of him for sure. But except for the couple of names that, he might have struggled with just a little bit. Paye.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got a couple years in news, remember?
Oh, absolutely. Tommy and I used to work together at the old Speed Channel and Fox Sports 1 doing the shows, Speed News, Speed Report, The Hub, you name it. Yes?
I got one more
shouldn't have
question
unmuted
about
him.
Zach. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
I'm
me.
sorry?
That was me. Zach, how's your NHL playoff series going?
Not great.
Oh,
Not great.
And you wanted to start a rivalry. We have Zach Evans, Carolina Hurricanes fan, versus Brandon Paul, the Boston Bruins fan, on the phone. Go at it, boys.
See, I can't do it with Zach though, because he's actually like a logical sports fan, unlike Patrick Hahy and Alex Jorgensen, who just sit there and spew off crap. Like, Zach actually knows what he's talking about, so it's actually enjoyable.
Wow.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it because I have not enjoyed this series so far.
What is the deal with Connor, by the way? Connor was going off on everybody yesterday. He was going off on Mrazek. He was going off on, Tampa Bay and the stadium. He had never even been there. Alec Jorgensen did have some sort of credibility in the fact that, listen, it's not fantastic. I've been to the Trop. We're talking about, the baseball team down there in Tampa. But Connor just was going off on everybody yesterday.
I will back Connor up. I think the Tropicana Field is the worst stadium.
But
in all of
Connor's never
baseball.
been there.
True.
Jorgensen had a point.
Yeah, true.
What the heck?
But he made a good, educated guess, though, I guess, from TV.
Condog, what are you doing, man? Back her down. Put the rev chip in there, 7,200 RPM.
We need to call him later. We'll just surprise call him.
Oh, anyway, I saw that yesterday. I'm like, dang, he's being pretty harsh. Mrazek is a person, too.
Connor's a hater.
Yeah.
That's just all there is to it. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, honestly. If it doesn't involve like modifieds, there's a good chance there's something about Connor doesn't.
This is the most trash talking I've ever heard Zach do. That's awesome.
See what you do to Zach Evans, Brandon? See what you do? You convince him, you convert him to be a trash talker like yourself. Because Brandon is the biggest trash talker, honestly, even though it's factual to some degree. Even though it's factual, he's the biggest trash talker on Twitter in regards to our realm.
I guess I'll take that as a compliment. But I only bite back when people bite first. That's the thing. Like, all these people chirp, 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 chirp. Alec comes on, calls me a bandwagon sports fan, and then Patrick starting his whole tagging us thing when Columbus got 2 wins. Nice and cute. Good job. Well, guess what? Guess who gets the final word, boys?
Yeah, the Bees. The Bees beat both.
The Bees.
Yeah, well.
All right.
Yeah,
short track racing
yeah.
to talk about.
I asked you a question, didn't I?
I don't
think
No.
you did. But,
No.
but we do have some questions, and this is something that's been talked about a lot, something I don't have many answers to, but I'm going to kind of reverse the roles here, I guess. And actually, Jim Swan commented on Facebook saying, hope to hear more about the Short Track Alliance. If you didn't catch it last week on speed51.com, I actually worked on the story. The Short Track Alliance has been announced. Bubba Pollard, Chris Dilbeck, and, of course, Bob Dillner involved with that. A lot of reaction from racers and fans. I know I've received some emails. I know the Short Track Alliance has received tons of emails. So I guess I'll just ask Bob, kind of, where do you stand at that? What can you tell us? Because I know people want to hear a little bit more about what's going on with this deal.
Well, and that's good, too. But in terms of how the Short Track Alliance is going to present itself, it's really just a closed-door community until we discuss some things, and we're tackling a lot of the different things that are going on in pavement late model racing right now. And the only thing I can tell you is that a lot of people are talking about it in our group. And in terms of the group, I can tell you that there are different representatives, whether it be crew chiefs, drivers, team owners, you name it, from different geographical parts of the country, and every single geographic part is represented, and every economic level is represented in the STA as well. And there's been some great conversation, including with the promoters and so forth. And basically what is happening is, if there's something that needs to be talked about, the group is discussing it, sharing those thoughts with the promoters and so forth. And that's basically it. And right now it's basically one topic of discussion at a time. So that's what the STA is doing. A lot of different conversation, emails, texts going back and forth to discuss the different things that are going on in pavement short track racing.
Yeah, and I think, overall, I think this whole deal is going to be a good thing. And even when I was at Star Speedway Saturday night for the Pro All-Star Series, I had a lot of people come up to me, of course, people prodding, what do you know? Well, I don't know anything because I'm not involved, but there's definitely a lot of interest in it, and a lot of people think that this is going to be a good deal, kind of having that voice for the racers, and not just for the racers, but just for short track racing as a whole, the promoters, the fans, just being able to talk about things. I think that's going to be a good deal moving forward. So definitely a lot of buzz surrounding that. Like I said, it's people everywhere seem to be talking about it.
Yeah, definitely a lot of open dialogue. In fact, the fans actually coming in as well and tweeting myself, Bubba Pollard, Chris Dilbeck, the STA account on Twitter as well, talking about it. They like to see the fans involved as well, and the fans have a very important voice as well in terms of everything that goes on in racing. And I know everybody from the STA wants to hear from the fans as well. But this is something that's not going to be widely talked about. It's a very closed, conversation. We will certainly want to hear all the ideas from fans and so forth. But at the same time, one of the worst things that can happen is, a lot of conversation amongst the media, honestly, in regards to rules and so forth. Really in terms of rules and so forth, it's really the racers, the teams, the people, the owners that are paying the money, the drivers that are driving the cars, and the crew chiefs that have to wrench them with the promoters that are putting on the races. And that's the biggest thing. So this is something that's not going to be talked about a ton until something happens. And then obviously the promoters and the STA will decide whether to put something out or not and converse on it further after that. But and I'm not trying to blow off your question at all, Brandon, but it's just something that at the same time, it's something that we don't believe that needs to be talked about wholeheartedly, other than the fact that there is a lot of conversation. It's very good. You're going to be surprised at some of the suggestions even that the racers have in terms of making things better, not only for the promoters, but also for the fans as well. Because, man, if some of these things come to fruition in terms of some of the things that they've talked about, it'll be some pretty exciting racing on the racetrack.
No, and that's awesome. And I mean, kind of, I guess, taking off your short track alliance hat or whatever. One of the things that somebody was talking to me about, and I won't name them particularly, and I think we've had this discussion before when Casey Roderick was on the show, but and I guess maybe even Zach can chime in on this, but the tire seems to be a big conversation piece now, as far as the different tires and how long they last and whatnot. And I think that's a big deal. A lot of people want to see, and I think I even received an email about this from I think it was a fan or somebody just invested in short track racing, not even necessarily a name that I know, somebody wanting sort of like a national late model or national super late model tire. I guess, Zach, well, what are your thoughts on that?
Definitely, that's a talking point that comes up a lot. Tires, whether it be the quality of them, the cost of them, how many you have to use over the course of a weekend with practice sessions and so forth. I think some of that practice conversation plays into the tire conversation. Excuse me. It's definitely a difficult issue because you've got a lot of moving pieces. Every track has a different rule set or tire of choice, and then you have to even different rules within different divisions. Some basically let you buy all the tires you want. Then your more budget divisions, you've got scuffs or you've got stickers or whatever, and it's definitely an issue that brings out a lot of opinions. But at the end of the day, I think the general consensus is naturally drivers want to spend less money. I mean, you're not making a ton of money in this deal anyway, and they feel like that's one of your primary expenses no matter how you slice it.
And there's a misperception to some degree about dirt and pavement racing. A lot of people say, "Oh, my dirt's better, less practice, this and that." And I agree to some degree, but at the same time, the dirt tire bill and the pavement tire bill, it's pretty up there. It's really just dollars and cents, the difference between the two in regards to the tire consumption. But at the same time, what I can tell you is certainly a topic of conversation, but at the same time, everybody is working together to try to make the best of everything and try to improve things in the future. So, in regards to that, there's really not much to say. There's one tire provider. There's different tire compounds, and those are all discussed and so forth. And so in regards to that, it's very difficult to actually talk about anything because there's that one provider, and they've done a good job for a long period of time. But at the same time, I think it gets down to, how much practice practice, pavement racers have and so forth. So it certainly is an interesting conversation, and it's something that honestly is interesting to hear all the racers talk about.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, a comment just came in. Andy Byron asked me, can you speak about the Short Track Alliance that was formed in New Hampshire? Now, the New Hampshire Short Track Alliance is working a little bit differently than I think the Short Track Alliance that Bob, Bubba, and Chris Dilbeck are involved in. But basically what they did, 5 New Hampshire racetracks, Lee USA Speedway, Star Speedway, Claremont Speedway, Monadnock Speedway, and Hudson Speedway, basically they came together to establish a common set of rules where a racer can go to Lee USA Speedway Friday night, they can go to Star Speedway Saturday night, and they can go to Hudson Speedway Sunday or mix in any of those tracks with Monadnock and Claremont as well on the days that they race. And they can race a street stock racer, a mini stock racer, can race under the same rules at all 5 racetracks there that I mentioned in New Hampshire. So again, I think that's an awesome deal. The one thing that I am cautious with there is you don't want one group sort of controlling everything. You still have other people involved, and I think they've done a pretty good job so far making sure that doesn't happen. But that's one thing, obviously, you want to keep an eye on. You want to make sure that one group doesn't become too controlling of everything. But so far, I think that alliance there in New Hampshire has done a great job as well.
Yeah, definitely when you get a region together and they have a common set of rules, it's positive for all the racers, which means it's positive for the promoters and it's positive for the fans because they're going to see a larger car count to some degree as well. So that's always a good thing. You take a look at some of the comments coming in right now. Larry Allen watching from Madison, Wisconsin, Madison International Speedway. That's where Brandon Paul was a couple of weeks ago for the ARCA Midwest Tour opener. And then how about this? 40 Legends cars showing up to Carteret County Speedway in North Carolina to get prepared for the Legends Car Nationals coming later in the year at the track. Of course, Carteret County Speedway, beautiful racetrack in the eastern part of North Carolina. They have a big $10,000 to win, I believe it is, a late model stock car show a little bit later on in the year as well. So keep those comments coming in. We love to hear from them. Brandon, Alec, and Connor are monitoring social media. Make sure you share this post as well. Plenty to talk about this morning as we are on the PFC Performance Hotline with Brandon Paul, our editor of Speed51.com, even though Mother Nature continues to try to dampen our spirits, Brandon.
That's right. Man, I know you guys touched on it briefly, but that race Saturday night at Star, and I knew it was going to be Star, is one of my favorite, if not my favorite racetracks in the country to just go watch a race. I mean, you're not going to have the glitz and glamour, the nice press box, all that stuff. But if you just want to see a good beating and banging short track race, I will put my money on Star Speedway every day. And they lived up to it. It got a little bit aggressive at times. Some drivers maybe a little bit too aggressive, but overall, man, I mean, like I said, if you want to go and just see hardcore, bad to the bone, as Bob Dillner would call it, short track racing, that's what the Pro All-Star Series provided at Star Speedway Saturday night.
In terms of what we got coming up this week, what do you think some of the hot stories, the hot take on some of the hot stories in short track racing are going to be this week as we, inch forward closer to another racing weekend with the hopes of getting some sunshine and some more races in this coming weekend?
Yeah, there's a big weekend on tap. I mean, you have a lot of stuff going on. Open wheel madness at Lakeview Motor Speedway. I'm looking forward to that, making a drive down starting Thursday for a couple weeks in the Carolinas and Tennessee with Bristol, with the Short Track U.S. Nationals coming up. But I mean, you also have a Cars Tour doubleheader at Motor Mile. That's definitely something to keep an eye on. The ARCA Midwest Tour, their second race of the season, following a very exciting race at Madison with the Joe Shear Classic. So I mean, there's a lot of big races this weekend. I mean, the ROC Asphalt Modified Series opening up at Chemung Speedrome. Obviously, that series always provides great races with your grassroots, hardcore racers like Chuck Hosfeld, Patrick Emmerling, Mike Leedy. All those guys will be in action, I'm sure. So that will definitely be a show if you're in the Northeast New York region. definitely head out and see that one. So a lot of exciting races going on, as like you said, as long as Mother Nature cooperates.
Yeah, definitely. Modified Madness, Open Wheel Madness at Lakeview Motor Speedway, Friday and Saturday night. Both of those races on each night will be on the Speed 51 video network. We are also taping that for a tape-delayed broadcast on MAV TV as part of Speed 51's Short Track America. Modoc Raceway in South Carolina, the Ultimate Southeast Super Late Models headed there as well. And then Volunteer Speedway on Saturday night. That's where Zach Evans will be with the Fast Track Racing Series with race number 2 on the schedule.
Absolutely looking forward to that. Said that 2 weeks ago on the show when we thought we were at, but that was another one of those blasted red dates on the spreadsheet. But second time's a charm, hopefully. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Brandon Paul on the PFC Performance Hotline. We appreciate you joining us. We're going to take a quick break here on Speed 51 in just a moment. We're getting set for that break. And then coming up on the other side of the break, we'll have our first I'm going to say, I was going to say our first real call in, but Brandon was our first real caller this morning, okay? He was a live person, at least he was awake this morning. That's a good thing, right? But we're going to actually have some commentary coming up from some of the newsmakers, and one of them is the winner of the Spring Sizzler at Stafford Motor Speedway, Doug Kobe, coming up. There's going to be some trash talking here on the Morning Bullring if you have Doug Kobe. Look out, coming up on the other side of the break.
Speed 51's video network, where the battles are legendary. Get the full picture on short track racing. We'll take you behind the scenes. Your track, your driver, your sport, your passion. Dirt, late models, modifieds, and more. Race highlights, recaps, interviews, and thousands of on-demand videos. Speed 51 Network, short track racers' home for the best video coverage.
For tickets, visit BriscoeMotorspeedway.com/tickets.
Back here on the Morning Bullring, we thank you for watching on Speed 51 every Monday morning. I say that every Monday morning. We're coming off of two shows that we didn't have over the last month for a spring break. And then obviously last week we were vacant from this position in the morning because we were traveling back from Nashville, Tennessee, and got back here to Concord, North Carolina after the North-South Challenge at about, 4:30 in the morning or something like that. So it would have been a little bit of tight turnaround, so to speak. Bob Dillner, Zach Evans in the morning here, Monday morning. You don't have your coffee, dude.
I'm not a coffee person.
Neither am I. I got water.
Same.
But you're not like Casey LaJoy. By the way, Casey hasn't been kicked off the show. Okay, he's hoping to be back on here at some point, but he did have to take a full-time job. Go figure. And he had to go take a full-time job working with a NASCAR Xfinity Series team right now. So, you're in his spot. How do you feel in Casey LaJoy's spot?
It's growing on me, I guess.
Okay.
I'm definitely not as charming and good-looking as him.
Wow, you just gave him a big compliment.
Oh, yeah, now he's not going to be able to walk into the shop anymore. So.
He looks more like he's 29 than you do, though. So
yeah. And he has more product in his hair that.
Oh, there's no doubt.
He's more product
10W40.
in his hair than all of us combined on a weekly basis.
What product can I put in this, though, honestly?
Yeah, that's true. Well, you just got to cut really, really short.
Yeah, this was a 1/8 cut about a week ago, and
Yeah.
It's working on it.
And by the way, even though you didn't recall who won the modified race Friday at Ace Speedway, do you remember now?
I don't.
No, you still didn't
I tried
even look it
looking
up.
for it. I couldn't find it.
How big of a modified fan are you becoming here with Speed 51?
I still haven't. It's odd because I really still.
Be careful now. I got somebody on the PFC
no.
Performance Hotline that's going to just kick your butt, reach through the phone, and
No.
strangle you.
I've loved the modifieds when I've gotten the chance to see them. But
Okay.
outside of Myrtle Beach, Southern
That's
Modified
boring.
Racing Series, I didn't
Speed
even,
Weeks.
Speed Weeks. Yeah, Speed Weeks, they're awesome at New Smyrna.
But it's nothing like the NASCAR Wheel and Modified
No.
Tour, or the Race of
No.
Champions Series, or the Tri-Track Series, or the
Right.
Modified Racing Series. It's different when it's outside the Northeast.
100%.
And I haven't been able to venture in that direction for anything. Modifieds, Pass North, Granite State, you name it. I haven't seen it up there yet.
So Doug Kobe, what do you think of that comment from our own Zach Evans here? He's kind of a rookie on the morning Bullring, not quite the modified guy like the rest of us are.
Well, I think you might have to put him on some modified duty here for Speed 51 and send him all around the Northeast to get a nice little education on what real racing's all about.
That's right. That's right. See that? You need to go up and hang out with Salamito and Kobe and the boys up in the north. Then you'll see some hard-nosed racing. And speaking of hard-nosed racing, how about that race at Stafford Motor Speedway? By the way, before we get into the race, Doug, you finally got it in. After 3 cancellations, you finally got the Spring Sizzler in.
Yeah, we were itching real bad to get that race in. They actually had to run a weekly show at Stafford the week before the Sizzler because they just, had a limited window of sunshine here in the Northeast. It seems like we're in the Northwest rather than the Northeast. We just don't get any sun up here, and been raining for a long time, but they finally got it in, and it was pretty cool. It was a day show. There were talks, the original schedule for the, I think, third postponement was that it was going to be a Friday night under the lights show. And, I wanted that in the beginning, and then I thought about it, and the Sizzler's supposed to be a day race. So the fact that they got it in on a great Saturday afternoon was really cool. Kind of like brings it back to how the Sizzler should be.
Absolutely. I agree. I remember, Greg Sachs back in the day in the Ernie Wilsberg, number 5, winning the Spring Sizzler, and that kind of set the world on end because that car was just so innovative at the time. And, I just remember that era right there. And even Brian Ross back in the day and the Reg and this and that, the daytime racing for the Spring Sizzler, that's exactly the way it ought to be. And for you, it ought to be with you in Victory Lane. You win the race again. What is it about the Spring Sizzler and Stafford Motor Speedway that you love so much?
Oh, man. Stafford's my home track, so I've really learned that place in a lot of different race cars. I started in a full fender late model car there in the end of 1996. And, from there it was just kind of learning all about the cars and how they handle around the track. And they paved the racetrack in 98. And that's really when things, clicked for me. I won the late model championship that year. And then just as I moved up through the SK modifieds and then into the tour cars, you get so many laps around the place. It's sort of like, leaving your driveway in the morning and going to wherever your morning stop is. You could probably do it with your eyes closed and not hit too many things. And that's kind of what I feel like when I go to Stafford. At least if I close my eyes, I probably won't hit too many things.
Nice. I tell you what, that battle, though, that you had with Craig Lutz, saw some of the highlights through Fans Choice TV, and it was interesting to see he was on your tail right there at the end, even peeked to the inside going into turn number 1. How nervous were you?
Well, I was a younger kid at one point in life and really desperate to win my first tour race. I can remember what that was like and how many times I came, so close with seconds and thirds and led so many laps in certain races and something dumb would happen. And I know how hard everybody works to get your first win. And it's the same thing as in any sport. Like once you get your first win, it seems like, they all come very quickly after that, or they can. So the first one's always the hardest to get. And I've watched Craig a lot in the SKs at Waterford when he came over from Long Island and started to, experiment over here in Connecticut. And then as he's run up to the tour level, he's aggressive and he certainly wants to get it done. And he was more patient with me than maybe I would have been with him. I'll give him that much. And it was a very respectful race. I really thought I was going to pull away from him once I passed him. I really thought I had a way better car. And then as soon as he got behind me, It seemed like maybe he drove a little bit harder or a little bit different, and his car was better than mine the last 10 laps. So, I wouldn't say I was nervous, but I was driving the hell out of that race car to make sure that if he was going to get me, that it wasn't going to be because I was just trying to run a slow, protective lane. I was going all for it and making him go for it too.
We've got Condog Connor Sullivan in the comments, and he's saying Bob needs to send me to Wall Stadium, which is y'all's next stop on the tour.
Next Saturday, man.
Yeah, Saturday. Going back was for the first time for the tour going back since 2007. Obviously, you've been there more recently than that with the Turkey Derby and such. What are your thoughts on that track? We got one fan asking, is it more of a motor track or more of a handling, a setup track?
I would say it's a mix of both. I love Wall Stadium. A lot of people really don't enjoy it there, but I love it. It's where I got my first pole in the tour in 2004, driving for Don King in the 28. And believe it or not, we got into a jingle that year and ended up 2 laps down. And I actually raced my way back up and got one of my 2 laps back by passing the leader for the race. Tony Ferrante was leading. So it had a great car. And I don't know if that's been done on the tour in a long time, but we put on a good show there. It's a tight little Bullring and it's narrow. And that's the thing is that, you knock wheels a lot and there's, a lot of cars get wrecked, but ultimately the racing usually is pretty interesting. Especially when we have a break in this race. So we're all going to come in to get some tires and then they're going to send us off to go for, I think, the last 50 or 75 laps or something like that. So, it's definitely going to be, quite an experience for anybody who's never raced there, or for some of you guys who may get shipped up there for the first time to watch there. It's a pretty neat little facility, and you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. And I'm just one of those guys. I love that place.
It's got a lot of charm. It's got a lot of charisma, honestly. I remember.
Charm?
And it's got some brutal New Jersey racers, by the way. Sorry, Jimmy blew it. But at the same time, the place does have a lot of character. It used to have a wooden wall around it, okay, back when I'm showing a little bit of my age right now, but I was a modified guy, just a modified guy. I couldn't stand taxi cab racing. That's what we called it for a long time, okay, with the full fendered stock cars. But at the same time, my dad and I would always go to the Turkey Derby, and there's a little charisma around that place. And, it's kind of some, like when the tour, or the tour guys would come in, or at that time, the Long Island guys or the New England guys or whatever it may be, when they would come in, there was quite the rivalry between the Jersey boys and the rest of modified country in the Northeast, because Jersey's kind of like, what exit are you from in New Jersey? That's kind of the thing, and it seems like they have this thick skin and they're tough guys down there. Is there still any of that? Because I haven't been to Wall Stadium in a long time, Doug, and I know you've been to the Turkey Derby and so forth, and you've been there in the past, as you noted, but at the same time, is there still that Jersey versus the world attitude with some of their racers down there?
Absolutely. There's the Jersey versus the world attitude when they're racing in New Jersey and when they come to Connecticut and when they come to Long Island. So, it's definitely a place where, I guess, I don't want to equate it to Bowman Gray, but it's kind of like the Northeast version, I think, where, they're very proud of who their racers are. And I actually spotted for James Savali back when he won the Turkey Derby. I think it was in 07. And he was the first New Englander or outsider to come, into New Jersey and win the Turkey Derby in I don't know how many years it was. And there were some people that I don't think were too thrilled with that. And then, lately it seems that with Matt Hirschman kind of dominating a lot of the open shows and winning the Turkey Derby a bunch of times, and Ryan Preece won it, it seems like there's been a mix. But Jimmy Blewett's still the guy to beat down there. He's going to be really tough this Saturday. I know he's going to have a great car put together, and he's got as many laps around Wall as I have around Stafford. And it's, one of those things where, there's going to be guys out there who are just trying to adapt to that place for the first half of practice, and Jimmy's going to go out there and lay down some laps and know exactly what to do. So the attitude is definitely Jersey versus the world, though, and I'm sure they're all hoping and expecting that Jimmy or if any of the other Jersey guys, Blake Barney or somebody who can come out there and pull off a surprise win, I'm sure they'd love that.
We're taking a look at some video from Wall Stadium, and you could see the high banking. Now, when I was a kid, you went there, and I'm from, Islip and Riverhead, and they have some banking for sure. But then you go to Wall Stadium, and it's like in a pit, honestly. You walk in from the parking lot, and the grandstands are down. Okay, the racetrack is down, but you look at, whether it was the fence, the wooden fence back in the day, or the Armco barrier that they have right now, the Jersey barriers there. You look at that banking, and it's intimidating. When you roll out from turn number 4 on the racetrack, Doug, and you get out onto that racetrack, is it as intimidating as it was for me looking at the track as a kid sitting in the grandstands?
Yes and no. I think it depends on how much experience you have there. I also remember seeing that place. I raced at a little wall at the quarter midget track when they had first opened it back in the early 90s, mid 90s. And we used to go ride our bikes around the big track. So I obviously knew what the banking was before I ever got there. But I don't think people realize how banked it really is. It's banked more than Thompson. Not quite as much as Bristol, but I'll tell you what, when you're going around there at 12 O's in a modified, you kind of feel like you're whipping around Bristol, and you really have to catch your breath to remember what the car was doing. And I think the most intimidating thing is kind of when you come blast up off on the turn 2, the wall comes up pretty quick, and there's a kind of a bump where the cars really like jump an RPM and then shoot down the straightaway. And a lot of times when you're side by side with somebody there, it can get really tight up there, and guys bounce off the wall and cause some wrecks down the backstretch. So, and then before you can blink, you're diving down into turn 3. So it's, and I think the dive into turn 3 is a lot bigger of a transition than it is down into turn 1. So, it's a very unique place. It's a place where you have to get up off the corner. You don't want to be too free. You don't want to buzz the tires because somebody's going to turn under you, but you also have to make the thing turn in the middle because they're tight, like Martinsville tight corners, so, it'll be a show, and it's, something that I hope everybody goes out to see.
Let's talk a little bit about points. Championship. Obviously, you're going after another, and I know it's early, dude. I know it's early, but still, you got almost a handful of races in already. And I like your comment already. Are you thinking about that? Because I think a lot of racers do lie about that they don't think about points at all. Where is Doug Kobe and Phil Moran and your team at this stage of the game in terms of, do you keep an eye on it at this point of the season?
Yeah, I would never lie. I keep an eye on it, all the time from the first race till the end. I like to look for trends, and I like to look at, historical results from seasons where, somebody like Justin Bonsignor dominated last year and really left no opportunity for anybody to catch him. And then I look at some of the seasons that we had where we left the door open a little bit and people closed in. So I just like history, and I like stats and numbers. So that's probably more so why I look at points. I kind of like to see, who's the closest. I've got Patrick Emmerling and Ron Silk are the closest right now, but Bonsignor, as bad as his season started, the first couple races, he's still right there, I think, in 5th in points. So, really, I think we know who we're battling every week. So it's not so much, looking at points right now and caring about every 1 or every 2. But at some point in the season, every 1 or every 2 matters. So I don't want to be that guy that says, oh, if only I had race somebody harder at wall in the 5th race of the season and gain those 2 spots, you could win a championship. So, yes, I look at them. It doesn't change how I race or who I race, but I always like to know who's there and what our stats look like compared to previous championship seasons. I think it's important to kind of keep things in perspective. And, you're not going to win every race in our series. Well, Justin almost did last year, but you're not going to win every race, and you just have to, trudge through every battle and try to get out with a good finish. And we're going to Wall this weekend, hoping to have a good enough car to compete for a win. But if not, end up in a top 5 or solid top 10 spot and move on to the next race. That's kind of how I look at the points deal.
You went way over, right? Skip right over my boy, Jimmy Blewett, Showtime himself, going to his home track this weekend, right there in the top 5 of the point standings as well. So he's going to be pissed off. You don't want to piss off Jimmy Blewett going into Wall Stadium.
Listen, you don't want to piss off Jimmy Blewett in any race on any track in practice, because he'll tell you at Wall Stadium, he'll tell you when you did it, and he'll remind you really quickly. If you talk to our boy Freddie Kraft, spotter for Bubba Wallace on the Cup Series, he could tell you a pretty funny story about me and Jimmy and Jimmy's memory. So, it's Jimmy's had a good season. I think the last couple races at Thompson and Stafford, I don't think they've been as happy with the car as they were at Myrtle Beach and South Boston. So I know they're looking to rebound with a strong finish, and I know they're not going to run at wall how they did at Stafford and Thompson. So I'm looking for them to be the car to beat when they go down there. And they're a tough group, and Jimmy's a good friend of mine off the racetrack, but on the racetrack, I know Jimmy has no friends. He's not going to, do anything on purpose to jeopardize anything. But if it push comes to shove, I know he's pushing and shoving, and I'm ready for that. So, that's fine with me. I like racers who, you know what you get when you're getting Jimmy, and that's something I can appreciate about him.
By the way, you brought him up. Justin Bonsignor, last year's champion, sitting back 5th in points. What's up with your boy?
I don't know, man. Get him on the show and ask. I mean, they've been strong and fast everywhere. Just a couple things didn't go their way, and I think they're kind of back into reality right now. Like I had to deal with after my championships. People race you differently. People hang you out a lot on the outside and fill the hole a lot harder than they would if it was somebody else, just because they know when the 51's in a bad spot, you got to take what you can get with him because he's going to come back after you. They have a great team. They've been really fast. They were fastest in every practice at Stafford that we had from the rain out until we qualified, and then they went out and won the pole in qualifying, and they were right there at the end with a shot that I think maybe just strategy bit them a little bit. So I don't think there's much going on with them. I don't think they're too worried. I think they probably like where they're sitting because the spotlight's a little bit off of them, and everybody thinks, 51's having a rough start to the season, but they're really not. I mean, they just haven't had the finishes. They've had a great car everywhere. So he's somebody that I'm certainly looking at, and would like to keep him as far back as possible because I know at any time they're likely to go on a string where they win 3 or 4 in a row. And I just want to make sure if that does happen that we're also competitive enough to, get really good finishes right behind them or right with them and mix it up. So I don't think they're too worried at this point, my friend.
So, Doug, a lot of people on our show, we have the drivers on and we just have fun and kind of talk casually. We have a lot of questions about, hey, ask them, what this guy does, in terms of, for a day job. And, right now, I'm trying to see what Connor Sullivan is putting up here. A shot of you, a hero card. Wow, that's a long time ago. I don't know if you're watching this, Doug, but NASCAR Featherlight Modified Tour. You were driving the blue 28 at the time, and dude, you looked young. You looked young at that time. So Connor Sullivan apparently is a big Doug Coby fan.
I was young at the time. If I was driving the 28, I had to be 23 or 24 years old, and it's crazy. You know how fast life goes by, and you go from 23 to 33 to I'm closing in on 40. It goes by in a blink, and I don't consider myself. I don't feel much older than that, but
we don't act.
I was actually funny enough to tie this all together. I was checking my Facebook messages this morning as I got up, and I had a couple from the weekend, and they're usually the last that I respond to, like the private messages. And Craig Lutz's brother, congratulated me, and I said, thank you. And I told him I knew how hard he was driving to try to win the race, and he made some comment about, them looking up to me when they were kids. And I said, okay, I appreciate it, but don't ever say that again.
Oh my gosh.
It's definitely something that I had to sit back not too long ago, just this morning, and said, man, I'm racing against people that looked up to me when they were kids. I mean, come on, but yeah, I guess that's how it goes, man. I'm getting up there.
Dude, I have the same thing a lot of times. Some of the people trying to come through the ranks and so forth, and they're young and they're cutting their teeth and broadcasting and so forth. I mean, man, I've been watching you for a long time. I love watching you. I'm trying to model myself after you. And I said, first of all, that's not a good thing. But number two, it's like, oh my gosh, am I getting that old? I like you said, I don't feel any different than I was, except for maybe the back sometimes. But that might be because I'm 6'6". Anyway, it's funny to hear the different perspectives and so forth as we mature, is what I like to call it, mature in age. But I was getting to the question of what you do off the racetrack. A lot of fans always want to know what these drivers do. Are you still in the real estate business?
I am, yeah. I've been full-time in real estate since 2011 or so. And, my specialty, I have a company, we flip houses in Connecticut. So we I spend a lot of time researching and looking for foreclosures or probate sales or the other sort of distressed properties that need some work, and go in and evaluate them, and then send our team loose on the design that we want to put in, and then list them again for sale afterwards, and hopefully make some money. So it's high risk, high reward business for sure, but it's something that allows me to work from home for the most part and make my own schedule, and kind of do whatever it is that I feel I need to do to grow the business. And that's really exciting for somebody like me. I'm a, kind of entrepreneurial and always coming up with new ideas, and running my own business with, the business partner, we work together. But running the business and trying to grow it is exciting. And we've been doing really well. So it's fun.
Hey, since you're such a stats guy, Andy chiming in on social media right now wants to know how many different NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour rides has Doug piloted in his career?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head, but if you want me to run through the numbers, it's Don King's 28, Kurt Chase 77, Wayne Darling 52, Mike Smeriglio 2, Mike Smeriglio 22 at Loudon, George Bierce is 19, Ralph Solom 0, Bob Santos 96, Bob Caton 46. I think that might be it.
Did you say the 52?
Oh, hold on. Wait. Eddie Partridge, number 12 at Loudon.
Did you say the 52, Darling?
Yeah, I said Darling.
Okay,
yeah.
you did. Okay. So we're up to 10.
I might have one or two more that like start and park type deals. Actually I ran David Hill's car start and park at Spencer Speedway back in 2000, I think in 10. So, I don't know, man. It seems like one of the things with me is that I've actually driven a lot of cars on the tour, racing, different crew chiefs, different combinations, and have always gotten the opportunity to drive some really good cars. And I think back in those years in, 2009, 10, when I was trying to get a full-time ride on the tour, I think that's really what helped me become a better driver is learning that, these cars I'm racing against are really good cars, and I know how smart the crew chiefs are, like Ralph Solom with all his shocks and all of his way he works is totally different from all the other guys. And I don't know. It's I wouldn't trade my career for anything in terms of obviously the success now, but what I had when I was trying to become successful, you kind of get caught up in it as a young driver, thinking that you have to have something full time all the time or else you're going to be irrelevant. And I don't think that that's true. And I think I kind of proved that.
Hey, lastly, since you're a kind of a historian and you love modifieds and the history of them, kind of like I do, I look at obviously, who's done what. And we all know that Richie Evans is the king and Mike Stefanik is probably the prince, if you want to say that. But Tony Hirschman also with 5 crowns as well. And you're tied with him now in terms of championships. Have you allowed yourself to think of, going after more, breaking Tony's mark at 5 and going to 6, and maybe even tracking down the guys ahead of you? Where is that in your mind and what you want to accomplish before you're done? Because you're still young, you still got a lot of years ahead of you. But, since you are that historian, have you allowed yourself to think about that?
Yeah, a little bit. I get asked that a lot, especially, if you win a championship, and some of the guys who don't know about the modifieds a whole lot, if they're doing interviews or whatever, they ask those sorts of questions. I never, and I've said this from day one, I would never equate myself to any of those drivers with the era that they raced and the knowledge that they had, and the different type of racing that existed back then in the different world. It's sort of the same thing of, equating Jimmy Johnson to Richard Petty and Dale Sr. and then somebody else, Kyle Busch, or somebody else coming along and winning more championships than them. It's going to happen, and I think we all know that there's going to be a time when somebody wins more championships than Mike Stefanik or than me or whoever. And I don't know. I just like being thought of as a really good driver of my generation, because my generation is lasting, 20 years or so. And when they say who was the best driver after Stefanik and Hirschman retired, if they want to mention my name in that category, then that's great. But the bottom line is those guys are guys that could get into cars tomorrow and go win races. I have no doubt that if Mike Stefanik or Tony Hirschman showed up at Wall Stadium this Saturday, that they would be contenders to win. And I think that that's something that I'm hoping to achieve as I continue to get older, that I could be thought of as somebody who can still get the job done. And, those two guys won, I think, half of their championships when they were in their 40s. And I'm looking at being tied with Tony at 5 and just turning 40 later this summer. You know, I think that that's really exciting for me to know that as time moves on, you know, there's something about race cars, you know, they don't really know how old the person is who's turning the wheel. And that's, that's pretty cool. You know, you can go as long as you can go. And as long as I'm physically and mentally able, of course, I'm going to keep racing. And hopefully with Mike Smerglio's 2 team, we kind of all have a bond over there and feel like we're destined to be competitive as long as, you know, we want to keep racing. So that's kind of the plan. And wherever I fall, wherever the cards fall, at the end, the cards fall. And there's going to be some people who say I'm better and there'll be an argument, and they say that I'm not, and I don't really care. I don't pay attention to that. I just, you know, try to beat whoever I can race against.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, what you've been able to do, and I've known you and seen you run for a long time, back from those Don King days and so forth. But, you know, I love the fact of what you're doing, you and Phil. You know, we talk about the marquee cars in racing, in modified racing, and obviously Richie and Jerry Cook in the 38 and Mike Stefanik and in the 15 and you know, the Reg and the Mario Fury number 44. Well, I think what's really cool, Doug, and I hope I'm paying you a compliment here, is that 2 car with you and Phil and everybody has become that iconic car that nobody will forget if you're a modified fan.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at with my head too. And it's important to, you know, remember that we do this as a team, you know, and the 2 team, we have a really strong bond of people, and everybody works really hard to get the car to be fast and successful on the track. And I would love it if people start, you know, when I'm long gone, I would love it if somebody who runs an antique racer, you know, repairs one of our cars and puts it together and runs it at those shows where they run all those cars that everybody knows that are iconic. And that would be probably the ultimate compliment for the success that we have as a team. If people, you know, 30, 40 years from now are driving around a Mayhew Tools number 2 around the track and everybody says, remember when that car won all those races and championships, that would be, you know, probably the ultimate compliment. So, I appreciate that, and that's certainly what we're hoping for.
Well, Doug, we appreciate you as a person, you as a racer, and we wish you the best of luck tackling old Jimmy Blewett and the rest of the Jersey squad down there at Wall Stadium.
Yeah, man, I'm ready to go. You know, I think my last 3 Turkey Derbies, I got 3 top 5s in a row, so I'm ready for my first win down there. And, you know, I've been talking with Phil about a setup, and I think we're going to have something for him. So I'm really excited to get down there and have some, what do they do, the pork roll, egg and cheese for breakfast and all that good stuff. So, you know, just excited to get down there. It's one of my favorite places, and unfortunately haven't run the Turkey Derby the last 2 or 3 years. So I'm just excited to get back there. Man, and I want to thank you guys for having me on. It's always a pleasure, and hopefully we'll be talking again after a couple more wins this season.
You got it. Absolutely. Doug Coby up there in New England joining us here on the Morning Bullring. Always good to talk to him. And, man, he's got me itching to want to go to Wall Stadium this week. I haven't been to Wall Stadium in forever, Zach. I know you haven't been, and that is a tough-nosed place.
I can already sense that there's got to be a tug of war between now and November, because you have the Turkey Derby, and in my world, the late model stock world, you have the Thanksgiving Classic at Southern National. So I can already see where I'm going to get pulled from both directions to try and get to those tracks this year.
Hey, look out. You go up there, you get initiated with the modified boys up there. I'm sure Coby and Bonson are going to take care of you. I don't know if it's the type of care that you want to have happen, but at the same time, they will certainly take care of you. We got a lot coming up here on the Morning Bullring this morning. David Rudiman will be here on the PFC Performance Hotline, a former NASCAR winner, going to be running at Lakeview Motor Speedway this weekend in South Carolina. On Saturday night, we'll talk to the Beak coming up here on the Morning Bullring. We'll be right back.
Speed 51's Video Network, where the battles are legendary. Get the full picture on short track racing. We'll take you behind the scenes, your track, Your driver, your sport, your passion. Dirt, late models, modifieds, and more. Race highlights, recaps, interviews, and thousands of on-demand videos. Speed 51 Network, short track racers' home for the best video coverage.
It's Bristol, baby. The short track U.S. Nationals return to Bristol Motor Speedway. For tickets, visit bristolmotorspeedway.com/tickets.
8:13 in the morning here on the Morning Bullring, Speed51.com. I'm Bob Dillner alongside is Zach Evans, Mark Keeler here in the house as well. Is Tom Ryan ready for the news or no? I'm just
I don't
wondering.
know.
I see him just pop up right away.
Boom.
We're 13 past the hour, and that means sound the music. It's time for the news to get you caught up. If you're just waking up this morning with what happened in the world of short track racing, besides that dreaded four-letter word in racing, that R word, rain, because we had a lot of it this past weekend.
That's right. On Friday night in Wisconsin, the Dirt Kings Tour headed to the Mississippi River and the Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
You learned that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks to our Navy boy. Jake Tim, in his first dirt late model start, beat Jimmy Mars for the win. Highlights are now available on the Speed 51 network. Zach Evans, did you take a look at those?
I did. You know, that's not a bad way, to start off your dirt late model career. I beat Jimmy Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
USRA modified guy from the racetrack, grew up just down the road and gets the big win. I watched the race live on the Speed 51 video network, and that place, watching it, just makes me want to go to Mississippi Thunder Speedway in Wisconsin.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? And at Ace Speedway on Friday night, the late model stock of Ryan Millington ended up in victory lane with a big pass with 10 laps to go in the 100-lap feature out near Elon, North Carolina.
Elon College.
Yes.
College. Were there a lot of college kids in the house there on Friday night?
Not where my camera was set up. I won't say no. But where I was set up, it was mostly your veteran savvy fans that have probably been going to Ace since before I was born.
So you were shooting the video?
Yes.
Where was
highlights.
Mark Keeler?
He was in the infield with our man Wesley Outland.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Wesley.
Him and Wesley. New combination here on Speed51.com.
Dream team.
We don't have Tom's chemistry with him, though. Him and Wesley have chemistry. We don't have that yet.
There you go.
There was some chemistry going on in that car you were telling me about, right?
We got along. It was good.
Anyway.
All right. Anyway, Saturday. Our Brandon Paul was up in Epping, New Hampshire at Star Speedway. DJ Shaw passed Derek Randstrom for the win. Big win for DJ Shaw. I heard there was a little bit of contact for everybody at Star Speedway.
And you could you saw that race live on the Speed 51 Video Network, and we'll see the highlights coming up today on the Speed 51 Network, so you can see that contact.
That's right. And Scott Paye.
There you go.
Boom. ACT Tour at White Mountain. Victor. Good for him. In the 37 car. Never forget that car. It's ingrained in my mind now. Not to mention I saw him last year at where were we?
When you're getting old, you forget
Hampshire.
things. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
But
Thunder Mountain.
Yeah, Eldora. Sunshine, a little bit of sunshine there on one day, and old Tyler Courtney looking pretty good too.
That's right. He put it in victory lane over Kevin Thomas, and then Donnie Schatz ended up in victory lane Friday night also for the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars.
And then Mother Nature didn't want to, didn't want to be nice to Eldora on 2 consecutive nights. So that race actually, I believe, the second leg of that race has been postponed to mid-July.
Gotcha. And also the World of Outlaw late models were postponed in Fayetteville due to Mother Nature, unfortunately, on Friday night. Tundra Series.
I got him out of whack. I did that on purpose to try to get him because I knew his script from the first time, so I tried to get him directed in another
Well, no, that
area.
didn't screw me up.
Okay.
It was David Prunty. I mean, Dennis Prunty. Because I have David written down, so that's what stopped me.
Well, it happens.
Yeah,
it happens.
Dennis Prunty in the Tundra Series in that awesome-looking number 42 car, who did have a little bit of trouble at Nashville, but comes back with a victory. Is great to see him. Love seeing him down at the Snowball Derby. Hopefully this year he makes it again.
He's coming back. He's already entered.
Awesome.
Already entered is Dennis Prunty, actually. And Tim Bryant told me this. As soon as they made that call to go to the controlled cautions, Dennis Prunty entered the race.
That's right. And also in breaking news for the Snowball Derby this past week, we had a big name talking about going down there, right?
Josh
Zach?
Berry talking about it. Would like to. He asked me at Martinsville a few years ago. He goes, man, what's that Snowball Derby like? We're at the Martinsville big race. He's like, man, I would love to go down and run that. And, I said, get Junior to build you a Super Elite model, a straight rail car. And he said, man, I'd love to do that. But didn't commit, okay, but would like to go. And that was said on, I don't know what Wesley's show is. He was interviewing him. Wesley Outland. Finish Line.
On Wednesdays.
On Fox Sports Radio or something like that on Wednesdays. By the way, I guess I'm on that show this week.
Yes, you are.
So I always hear you talking about the show and hear you listening to it instead of doing work and stuff. He just listens to Wesley Outland.
We can multitask.
Yeah,
Calm
right.
down.
I can't even
sometimes
single
we can-
task.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can multitask, but not often. I don't normally. I mean, I have a TV on my desk. When was the last time you've seen it on?
All the time.
I never put that.
Wait,
thing
Usually
on.
when the Tour de France
I was just
is
going to
on.
say, wait till the Tour de France
Yeah, in
starts.
July it's always on. That's right. Doug Kobe, as we just heard on the morning Bullring, wins his 4th Spring Sizzler, and what a great interview. Mark was telling me that the guy's just solid on the phone call.
Yeah, you know who else is solid on the phone call as well, and that's the Beak, David Rudiman on the PFC Performance Hotline right now. David Rudiman, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. You guys are wide open this morning already?
Yeah, we started at 7, and do this show called The Morning Bullring. It's all to promote more short track racing in the United States and to get people interested and so forth. I want to know, though, I haven't seen you since, I think, Cherokee Speedway last year when we were out there for a Dirt Cup Challenge race in the modifieds. What you been doing, dude? I miss you.
We've just been here, here out in my little hole in the wall out here in Sherrills Ford, North Carolina, just building some dirt cars and stuff, and finally got myself one put back together, built, because I'd sold everything, and I just was too far behind on shop work to stop and build my own stuff because I don't make any money on my own stuff. So, as a matter of fact, I lose money hand over fist on my own stuff. And so, got caught up and finally got myself a car ready. And we actually just came back from Florida, ran a race down at Bubble Raceway Park on Saturday night, and then drove all night on Saturday night and then the Sunday morning. And now we're out here washing this thing up and trying to wash all the Florida love bugs off my truck, which is that in itself is a chore. And I mean, heck, it'll take me longer to wash the truck than it will wash the car, I think.
Hey, we're friends, but one of my heroes is obviously your dad, and I know we talk about this a lot. But did he run with you at Bubba this past weekend?
Yeah, he was there. He didn't have a great night. Matter of fact, neither one of us had a great night. But he's out there. He just had a birthday. I think he's 78 now, and still wide open. And matter of fact, I was jerking around there trying to pass a few guys, and he come blasting by on the outside and drove by me and drove off. And I had to finally beat up on him to get back by him towards because I mean I can't have the old man now running me because I have to hear all kinds of stuff the following week from him on that. So got back by him, but yeah, he was he didn't finish well, but. He had a good car early on, and I think he might have picked the wrong tire for the way the track surface was. Matter of fact, we both did.
So I want to know, since there's a little, sometimes a little competitive nature amongst the two of you, and of course your dad Buzzy, just a legend in modified racing for so many years. But who's won a race more recently?
That would be him. That would definitely be him.
Well, you can tell that was a short answer from David Rudiman. It's like, oh, I thought you had to ask that question. But
moving right along.
Moving right along. Obviously, Open Wheel Madness this weekend at Lakeview Motor Speedway. It's going to be a lot of fun. A couple days show there, Friday and Saturday night, worth of racing at Lakeview Motor Speedway, just outside of Myrtle Beach. I know it's not going to be a vacation for you, David, but heard that you were coming. How much are you looking forward to the event?
Really looking forward to it. I mean, since they started this Dirt Cup deal last year, I've been able to attend. Obviously, you and I have attended some of the same events, just in a spectator fashion for myself, and just because I didn't have anything to drive. And now this will be actually my first Dirt Cup race that I'll actually be able to go race. And good, it should be a good 2-day show. Again, it's a really good series. It's growing. I like the format. There's really not. It's just a situation where the racing's laid out as far as the series is concerned. Well, there's not points and stuff like that where a lot of guys get caught up in points and point racing and feeling like they have to be there, just to race to get those points and whatever. It's a race to race deal. The purses are pretty good. It pays back to the field pretty well. If you can't make a race, you don't feel like it's the end of the world because there's no point deal at this point right now. Now, further down the road, who knows what to do, but it is a good series and it's growing pretty quick.
David, along with your racing, you also do some work as a crew chief. Last I heard, if I remember correctly, you're with Lee Falk Racing, working with Ryan Rackley on that limited late model program. How's that coming along?
It's going well. We've only raced one race. The other one got rained out. But yeah, he's a great kid. Ryan is a really great kid. Got a lot of potential. Has a lot of Legends car experience and things like that. So there's some things that come along with driving a Legends car that don't, that some habits you pick up racing that don't necessarily transfer over to the late model world. So you have to kind of wean them off of those things and make them do things differently and think differently. But he's a really sharp kid. He does a good job. As far as me as being a crew chief, I don't know how I became. There's a lot of things I wanted to be in life. Crew chief was not one of them. And a car owner was not one of them either. So I'm both of those right now. It's interesting. Lee Falk Racing has a great program over there, and I'm learning about these late models a little more and helping them along. It's more in a driver coach kind of capacity as far as anything goes. Because I can, if anybody's qualified to tell somebody what not to do, it's me. I'm your guy. I got the market cornered on what not to do.
Talking to David Rudiman here on the Morning Bullring on our PFC Performance Hotline. David Rudiman, the former Cup Series winner and now modified hot shot, and of course chassis builder as well with the Beak Built chassis for modified racing in terms of the UMP style modifieds. How's that business going, David?
It's going well. I mean, I'm just myself and one other guy that works a little part-time. So we're very, very small. We don't build a ton of cars a year, which is by design. I don't want to do that. But yeah, we go along. We plug along pretty well. I mean, I could build more cars if I chose to. But it's like, man, there's so much work in them. And at the bottom line is there's a lot of work and not a lot of money in it. So I like to just kind of, all things in moderation, Bob. All things in moderation. That's what you got to look at.
There you go. Absolutely. And love talking to David Rudiman because he's one of those old school racers. And heck, you talked about, him coming back over to the pavement side. Mm-hmm. He used to be a pavement warrior in the old NASCAR All Pro Series. In fact,
right.
We did a TV race. What was it? South Boston Speedway back in the day, David, that you won, I believe. And we had it, I don't know what network it was for, but I was the pit reporter and so forth. And we had a lot of fun that day. Didn't you win that race at South Boston?
That was actually my first All Pro race. And
really?
Let's even, take it back, not really a little bit further, but I don't know if you remember in Miami, Homestead, myself, Brian Patty, and you sitting down and having dinner and talking about which direction you felt like I should go because I had some offers early in my career in the truck series, and then there were some other offers, and we went kind of down the offers, and you helped me decide on what direction to go in, and so it's either your fault or I got to thank you, one of the two. I'm not sure, but it worked out pretty well for me. But I'm not sure if you remember that or not.
I do actually. It was just down the road. I think on that corner, you could either turn left to go to Key Largo or go right to go back to Miami, and we sat there for dinner that day and just talking about things. And of course, I was always a fan of your dad. Heck, your dad's diecast, not yours, your dad's diecast is in my office. So I do remember that. It's neat to talk about, the things that you've done and so forth, and the conversations you had and the relationships you had. And, the thing cool about like David and I is when we talk, we kid around with each other and we pick on each other a bunch, honestly. But when we do see each other, like we saw each other at Cherokee Speedway last year, you get back and you just start talking, and it's like, you've never been apart. And that's the cool thing about, racing people that have been around for a while. And I appreciate that about you, David. And, a lot of people ask me, do I miss the Cup world? And what I tell them is, no, honestly, I don't. Maybe I miss the paycheck to some degree a little bit, but at the same time, I really enjoy what I'm doing right now within the short track ranks, covering, all the different series that we do, whether it be on dirt or pavement. Enjoy that a lot. You see a lot of people like yourself, Tony Stewart, Kenny Wallace, Kenny Schrader, you name it. Just have fun now on the short track. So I guess the question to you is, do you miss the Cup scene, or are you just having a blast doing what you're doing?
Well, I mean, I think I'm probably in the same boat that you're in. I mean, certainly the pay scale is slightly different than it used to be. Here working out in Sheriff Ford at Big building dirt cars versus Cup racing, there's a slight difference, Bob. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
There's a slight pay difference, But as far as that goes, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love NASCAR racing. I love the sport. I love everything about it. But when I stepped out of the deal, I have not watched a lap of any Cup racing except for I watched the last 5 laps of when Truex won the championship, because Truex is my buddy. I wanted to see him pull that deal off. But other than that, I haven't, and it's because I do love the sport, but if I can't be involved in it, it's certainly not something that I want to torture myself with, because if when you want to watch it, all you want to do is go back and be there, So I came back and started going back to dirt racing and stuff like that, because as a young guy, all I wanted to do was get off the dirt and go on to something bigger. And when you get something bigger, all you want to do is go back and dirt race. It's just a weird way things circle around. So yes, I do miss certain aspects of it. I'm sure the same can be said for you. You miss certain people. You miss people that interacted with. Because really the people is what makes the sport really, what it comes down to. And but at the same time, there's a lot of aspects that I don't miss. And I'm okay with that. I mean, it was a good gig while it lasted, and just life changes. You got to move on and do something different.
I couldn't say it any better, honestly, to tell you the truth. So we're in the same boat there. But I have to say, I am a big dummy because I said that I have your dad's diecast in my office. And the funny thing is, Mark just walked over to me on our Studio 51 set here and pointed out, he was pointing in front of me, and I'm like, what are you talking about? We actually have your dad's 00 coupe right in front of me. My Appalachian State Cup, where my daughter went to college, is actually blocking it. But your dad's diecast is on our set here. And of course, we're talking to David Rudiman here on the Morning Bullring. He will be competing at Lakeview Motor Speedway on Friday and Saturday night, just down the road from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. A big dirt car UMP style modified show, and that will be live both Friday and Saturday on the Speed 51 video network for premium subscribers. It'll also be a tape delayed broadcast on MAV TV, so that'll be awesome as part of Speed 51 Short Track America. What do you expect from Lakeview? Have you seen it? Have you studied it? What do you know about it?
I know absolutely nothing, and I'm ashamed to say that, because I didn't. I look on the schedule. I was Lakeview Speedway. Where the heck is that? I've never even heard of it, and I'm not sure about the history of the racetrack. And I'm trying to come up with some videos and stuff like that to be able to watch the race, because you learn a lot about the track just by a lot of times just watching guys run around it. So I'm excited about it. The fact that you guys are going to be covering it as well as MAV TV. I mean, us modified guys, other than maybe some races at Volusia during Speed Week and stuff like that, and hit and miss races, you don't have a lot of modified TV coverage. And I tell you, that's got to be huge. I mean, if you're a guy that's got a sponsor on the line or something like that, you may want to give them a little extra exposure, or maybe put them over the line and say, hey, this is what we're doing, get you more exposure. I mean, those things, it's hard. Sponsors are hard to come by, and TV, obviously, or any kind of coverage, whether it be internet or on the television, is a huge deal anymore. And I'm pretty excited about it. And hopefully we get a good turnout, good car count, and more importantly, a really good crowd to come out and watch it.
Yeah, we're actually showing some video right now on our program here this morning of the racetrack. Let me just say, yellow walls on the front stretch. No walls on through turn 1 all the way to turn 4. High banked to some degree, depending on where you run. The higher you go up the racetrack, it seems like the more banking there is. They added a lot of dirt. So that red clay, I didn't grow up with it. I know you didn't really grow up with it down there in Florida. So that red clay sometimes in the Carolinas can really throw drivers for a loop, can it?
Oh, yeah, it can, because it looks really, really good in a picture. The surface is, but a lot of times what I found, and this certainly may not be the case down there, but a lot of places we go to, the red clay does not seem to hold moisture all that well. Seems to be a fair amount of something, whether it be sand content or what have you, in there, and it's a lot of times it doesn't take rubber, it doesn't build a cushion, it just kind of gets slick. But if it's slick and smooth, that's part of the deal. You just find a way to go around it, and I'm sure it'll be a great event. And but I'm like you, I wasn't grown, I haven't grown up on that type of surface, and it's quite an adjustment if you've not run it before, or you run it periodically. It's certainly something you have to get used to, and you definitely have to adjust your car for it.
So is this going to be a boys' weekend, a business-type boys' weekend for you? Or are you taking the family down to Myrtle Beach while you're down there and having some fun? Because Lakeview is just a stone's throw from Myrtle Beach. So if anybody's looking for a good time this weekend, you can take the family down to Myrtle Beach, see some great racing on Friday and Saturday night. You get the picture. You got to convince the ladies sometimes to do that. But are you going down as a family, or are you just going down as a boys' weekend?
Yeah, I'm just going down there, kind of a boys' weekend. It's I think if I'm not mistaken, my daughter and my wife have yet another horse show to go to this weekend, Bob. I got when we talked, and I'm gonna have to tell you all about the horse side of things, because I used to think racing was expensive until those four-legged things. Them son of a guns will just absolutely wring every last dime out of you. And it's the same thing goes in racing than it does on the horse side of things. My daughter shows reining horses. The fact of the matter is, if you're not sitting on something good or sitting in something good, you're not going to run. You're not going to do well, and that a lot of it transfers over. And if you're going to run well and you're going to have good equipment, it costs money to have good equipment, and certainly the horse side of things is no different.
Hey, wait a second. I thought you want more horsepower, it costs more money. So you're saying the lesser horsepower costs just as much, if not more? Then what is that?
I paid more for 1 horsepower down here in the barn than I have any on any of my dirt racing stuff. But she does extremely well. It's got her scholarship to go to South Carolina down there. So that side of the thing has worked out, where she's part of the equestrian team down there when she goes to college, which is in another year or so. Which, man, I don't know how that happened.
Whoa, are you kidding me, dude?
No,
wow.
I'm not. It's so scary and depressing at the same time. But yeah, it's certainly an adjustment. It means one thing. My daughter going to college means that Bob Dillner's getting old. That's definitely what it means.
Yes, I am. You're just a couple years behind me, I believe. Just a couple. So, dude, I cannot believe that. Wow, that's amazing. Well, listen, I appreciate who you are. Your family's always been great, and from what I can tell and talking to you and so forth, it seems like you're a great dad. I know you won't own up to that at all, but I wish you the best. I look forward to seeing you down at Lakeview. I'm not going to be there the whole weekend because I have to go up to Toledo, Ohio, to an ARCA Menard Series event live on MAV TV. But the crew will be down there. I'll see you just briefly, and we certainly wish you the best of luck and look forward to seeing you, bud.
Yeah, man, look forward to talking to you. Have a good time.
You got it. David Ruderman on the PFC Performance Hotline. He will be competing in a UMP, dirt car UMP style modified. The big show, Friday and Saturday night at Lakeview Motor Speedway. You got to get down there because you can have a good time with the family. Check out Myrtle Beach. Again, just down the road from Lakeview Motor Speedway. Come over Friday and or Saturday night, see some good racing, and have a good time with the family as well. It's going to be a blast. You'll also be able to see it live on the Speed 51 Video Network for premium subscribers, as well as a tape-delayed broadcast later this year on Speed 51 Short Track America on MAV TV.
I think that's one really cool thing about these broadcasts that we do, whether it be Speed 51 Live, the MAV TV deals. We've been able to give a lot of exposure to tracks that, we just listened to David. He, had no idea Lakeview Motor Speedway existed. We're going to have it on a worldwide audience. Yeah, I think that's great that we've been able to bring some exposure to some new places that your average fan may not know about. But once you see these places, you're like, man, I got to get there. I got to go there. And that's just such a cool part of what we do.
And that's exactly the point of Short Track America. When we sat down and we're like, we're at these places a ton. We got these cameras. We need to add maybe a couple more and some people and so forth. Let's talk to Mav TV about putting them on. And honestly, it's one of those that it's a ton of work with not a ton of return, but at the same time, it helps promote short track racing, promotes grassroots racing, and that helps. We're all about that hashtag more short tracks. Pavement or dirt doesn't matter. And it's going to be neat to be able to put Lakeview Motor Speedway in the spotlight on a national network in TV, and that's really kind of cool. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast, and Scott Tripp and his staff down there working diligently at that track. Alan Dietz, our buddy who works with us at Speed 51, oftentimes, he says, man, you should have seen the track a few years ago. Scott Tripp and his staff really saved it from being a lost speedway for good, and they continually build stuff down there, and they're craftsmen down there. They build a lot of stuff out of wood, and it's made the place really shine and look very nice. So if you can get down there to Lakeview, South Carolina, you need to do it either Friday or Saturday night to see some good racing and a great facility as well.
I couldn't help but notice, though, that David made a point to say that the kids going off to college made you old and not him.
Yeah, I know.
You noticed that, right? Okay.
I think he's honestly like a year or two behind me. And I'm not the big 5-0 yet. Okay, Tom Ryan will be there before me. And it's, in fact, coming up, June what? 3rd. June 3rd. I wonder if that's a Monday. Man, that will be fun if that's a Monday, because we will have a razzing for Tom Ryan on that day. I get to hide my birthday a little bit because it's right in the middle of the Snowball Derby week. So actually, it's not this year. Believe it or not.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. I actually might see my kids. Usually I'm down at the Snowball Derby, but it's the Friday after Thanksgiving this year.
Guess when June 3rd is?
When?
A Monday.
Yes!
All right.
Yes!
We're going to have to bring, party horns. And
yes. We're going to be wearing those cone caps.
Yes.
And the, the horns and so forth.
That's if I show up.
Hey, we'll party with or without you. You might as well show up.
We'll have it at your house, live remote.
Yeah, remote. Ready for that, Mark?
That's a remote I would definitely do.
Yes, I would. We'll just do it Facebook Live style. We'll just break in. No, we're just knocking down the door and get Tom Ryan out of bed. All right.
No. I have a brand new door. Please don't knock.
We're going to knock down Joe Scott Nickey's door next here on the Morning Bullring to talk about some more mighty modifieds. That's what I always like to say, by the grace of God and 600 horsepower. We will return here on Speed 51.
Speed 51's video network, where the battles are legendary. Get the full picture on short track racing. We'll take you behind the scenes. Your track, your driver, your sport, your passion. Dirt, late models, modifieds, and more. Race highlights, recaps, interviews, and thousands of on-demand videos. Speed 51 Network, short track racers' home for the best video coverage.
It's Bristol, baby. The Short Track U.S. Nationals return to Bristol Motor Speedway. For tickets, visit bristolmotorspeedway.com/tickets.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed this morning here on Speed 51 with the Morning Bullring. Zach Evans, Bob Dillner, Mark Keeler, Tom Ryan in the house in Studio 51 in Concord, North Carolina. We've talked all about a lot of different things, actually, this morning, from Prunty, not David, but Dennis winning up in the Tundra Series up there in Wisconsin, to Mississippi Thunder Speedway, which is actually in Wisconsin. That was a story. If you missed the early portions of the Morning Bullring, you missed why they call Mississippi Thunder Speedway that name up in Wisconsin. It's definitely an interesting situation that Jeff Fisher, one of our cameramen, actually filled us in on this past weekend. But a lot of racing that happened, a lot of racing still to come, including some great modified racing up there in the Northeast. The Race of Champions Modified Series will do battle this weekend, and because of that, we go to the PFC Performance Hotline where Joe Scott Nicky, who is the promoter for the Race of Champions Modified Series, joins us on the PFC Performance Hotline. How you doing, Joe?
I'm good, Bob. Thanks for looking us up and having us on.
Hey, no problem whatsoever. You know me. I love the modifieds. We had Doug Kobe on the show earlier today. He's always a blast to talk to. Always liking to talk some smack and so forth. But, hey, last week was a little bit of a busy week for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's an understatement. It's been a busy off season, really. With us taking on the Spencer project with Jeff Demink and not really knowing what's going to happen at home, and finally being able to put something together there was kind of landmark for us, and really looking forward to getting back to racing at Lancaster.
So that's the big news. Lancaster, we didn't know what was going to happen. That track outside of Buffalo, New York. Obviously we talked last week. You're going to be involved there. I understand it's a new name, New York International Raceway Park or something like that. Fill me in on what's going on at Lancaster for those that didn't see the story on Speed 51 or the ROC website last week.
So it's a unique story. Two drag racers got together. Vito Antonicelli, he's a local car builder. Actually, I would say he's recognized probably nationwide. His car building expertise on the drag side of things is pretty incredible. And then another local businessman who happens to be a drag racer, Mike Swinarski, somehow were able to put a deal together to purchase the track. And they were looking for help and experience and someone to run the stock car program. And rather than put them in a situation where they were paying twice or paying somebody double, or we have all the capabilities to do it. So we met with them a couple times, and I actually met with Vito and his wife, Sylvia, and I still haven't met Mike yet. But we were able to put the schedule together, and we'll be handling, the stock car side of things A to Z, whether it's the Lancaster Street stocks or making sure the schedules are done, and the NYPA midgets are coming in a couple times. They just didn't know the stock car business, and we were able to help them out, and that's what we've been trying to do with Everywhere, give everybody a good solid program and experience with some exciting and thrilling racing. And with what's happened at Lancaster since 2016 with our programs, that place has become not just home, but it's become so exciting, and so there's so much energy when we do race there that I think with the unknown, I think it's just going to be even better this year, now that people recognize that we just need to be thankful and grateful that Vito and Mike stepped up, and we have a place to race.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, honestly, because we got worried for a while that Lancaster was going to go into the Lost Speedway category like it once was at some point. So much history there, too, for modified racing at that racetrack. I remember seeing it, when I got the racing paper back in the day. I'd always want to see who won at Lancaster and so forth because, kind of like the Jersey boys, I was talking to Doug Kobe earlier, and the Long Island gang, the upper New York gang there, too. They had, a charisma all to it, their own up there, and really created a following up there. And Lancaster was certainly at the center of that for a long period of time. And what everybody has done there over the course of the last half a decade, whatever it's been since it's come back, has been really neat to see, and to see all the RC modified races there and the street stocks and so forth. The styrofoam is always spectacular. So we appreciate the fact of what they have done, and you stepping into things makes things going to be run really well there at that racetrack as well. I know there's going to be a bunch of RC modified races there as well as a cornerstone to your schedule once again.
Yeah, we'll do this. We're doing the 3 races there. Before we knew what was going on, we actually moved the Tommy Tony race, which is in tribute to Tommy Drewer, who unfortunately lost his life at Lancaster, and then Tony Jankowiak, his son Andy, races with us. And that race this year will be the 30th year, which is
incredible.
Bob, we're getting old.
Yes, it's the theme of the show, I think.
It's when I realized it was the 30th annual, I said, when we were doing the Spencer thing and really didn't know what was going on at Lancaster and putting that schedule together, I said, we cannot lose this tradition. It's too important to the racing community. It's too important to the families that really sacrificed it all to race modifieds. So we're really looking forward to August 17th and a big night there. Obviously, the U.S. Open, which has become a Western New York racing festival. It's not just it's not about the racing anymore. It's the camping and the revelry and the after hour stuff that we can't really talk about. But that it's become that sort of event. I mean, it's not as big as a Super Dirt Week type thing, but it has that type of atmosphere, and we definitely wanted that back on the schedule. And it's just one of those things, like, if you're patient enough, it all kind of works itself out, and that's where we are today.
I want to talk to you about something while we have you on the show. A couple weeks ago, whatever it was, last week maybe, there was an announcement about Short Track Alliance racers getting together and so forth. And, there's a lot of talk about promoters and racers and this and that from the fans and so forth. But you're one, you and your wife Amy are ones that I admire. Longtime racer, you've been around from the media side to spotter. You worked in NASCAR, the Dirt Car Series, you name it. And you know one thing, and that's hard work. And I think to some degree, promoters get a rough rap, honestly, in terms of what they do. There's a lot of people that are quick to criticize and not often quick to applaud. I applaud what you guys have done to help keep the Race of Champions name alive up there in Pennsylvania and New York, certainly, and even the Northeast to some degree as well. But how difficult sometimes, we talked about a little bit on the phone, how running ragged you've been lately. How difficult is that game sometimes, to put it in perspective in layman's terms for a fan that might be watching this morning on the Morning Bullring?
It gets old. It gets really old. None of us are doing it, whether it's you, me, Greg McCarnes, Larry Collins, anybody. We don't do this to get rich. We all do it because we love it. And when we say we love it, do we love reading the internet with, someone calling you a name, or having an expert post that hasn't spent, $10,000 of their own money to promote an event that didn't go well? That stuff, and maybe I wear it too much on my sleeve, but it hurts after a while. All the stuff that went on with us, and I don't need to go into detail about it, but if people only knew the truth, and the truth was out there, it's just some people chose not to read it or have their own version of it. That it does hurt. It makes it more difficult to be positive every day. But luckily, there's some of us that figure out how to dredge through year after year. And I live on this, that the only thing that we have is our customer service, and that if the people that we need to take care of are getting that proper customer service, then we're doing our job. You're never going to make everyone happy. But I really believe, and I don't want you guys to stop doing what you're doing or the internet to go away, but social media has made what we do so difficult because it seems like you're always just putting out a fire because, there's some keyboard commando out there that's got an expert opinion on something that just, blows up and you've got to fight it rather than making something better. And it's just, it gets frustrating after a while, but when you're passionate and you love something, you figure out a way to get through it and keep doing it. And that's kind of been our story and the backbone of how we do it.
It's funny because I feel the same way, even though, Speed 51 is one of my businesses and we're in that media business. I think the media has changed so much, honestly. We've seen that whether it's politics or racing or sports or anything. Everybody wants to be first, not accurate. And then the social media side of things is just miserable sometimes. We all have a deal here where we, remain positive on social media, with the exception of some of the guys, arguing about who they like in, hockey and football and that sort of thing. But in terms of racing, we all try to be pretty positive. Obviously, there's controversy that we need to cover and so forth. But I think it's so much tougher for people to do that. You talk about a keyboard commando. We call them keyboard warriors that are sitting in their parents' basement in their underwear and just talking about things that they don't know about. Very, very difficult. So again, I applaud what you guys do, and we are very happy to be part of the Race of Champions series. We're going to do that again this week. I know we have to because we've been both so busy. Get together and just figure out exactly the details of what we're going to do. But Speed 51 will return to the Race of Champions Modified Series. We had a cool program last year, and we're going to look at that again for this year. So when we get to Chemung on Saturday, we'll have all that ironed out, and I know you're looking forward to a great show at Chemung to kick off the RC Modified Series this year. What are we looking at when we go to that racetrack just down the road from Watkins Glen? Just a short stone's throw there. What are we looking at for this Saturday?
You're going to be looking at a pretty exciting show. All the players will be back. Matt Hirschman will be there. I know Chuck Hospital will be there after a nationwide tour that he had a week ago. And if Chuck's listening, he'll be laughing about that. But yeah, Andy Jankowiak's gearing up to go for the championship. There'll be an announcement later today. We're not going to scrap anything. We're just going to adjust how the points work. So,
Cool.
Some of the people that have been beating us up a little bit on that system, we're just going to make it a little bit better. What I think is a little better. So we'll have that out later today. But Chemung is it's a wild place because when you pull in for the first time, you think, well, there's the racetrack and there's the groove and everything else, and then the cars go out. It's one of the most challenging places to officiate a race because of that, and because of the way the cars drive and the passing that's going on and different lines and everything. It's almost like watching a road course every lap. So if you've never been there, I would definitely put it on the bucket list. And Saturday afternoon would probably be a pretty good one to see.
Yeah, that's going to be a blast, and we look forward to being there with Speed 51, and always excited about the ROC Modified Series and all the stuff that you got going on because, you do a little dirt, do full fendered racing, all sorts of stuff. How does the season look for all the things that you are managing right now? Because some of those other classes are getting just as strong, if not stronger, than the modifieds.
Well, something on that before we go into how they look is, I know there's some people out there that think, oh, they're getting away from the core product. Well, the core product is racing, and our featured division is the modified division. But when we looked at it, we were like, what are we going to do when, not that he's going anywhere today, but Chuck Oswald retires in 5 years, or Maddie's not doing this anymore, or go down the list. so we started looking at ways to create feeder systems. Now we have 7 divisions, and it's some days it gets a little overwhelming, but they're all looking stronger and stronger because the weekly stuff really has gone away in Western and Central New York. So those guys need to have a place where they can justify their investment in a race car, and luckily we've been able to provide that. I think the sportsman division on asphalt is going to be incredible this year. The super stocks are, you guys had some thrilling videos last year that were on your pay-per-view of some of our super stock races. Those guys just know how to put on a good full fendered show, and it's just something we did, not just to grow or anything else, but to maintain the sport, so we give people options to race. Because at the end of the day, the bottom line is we need racers racing everywhere at every level so that the sport has a future.
Joe, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here because they've been giving me a hard time on the show today. I'm this Carolina boy, and yes, we have Bowman Gray and we have, the Southern Modified Racing Series, but the modified culture in the Northeast is a totally different animal. And they're telling me I've got to get up there and see these races. So make your sales pitch, put your promoter cap on. Why do I need to go check out the Race of Champions at some point this year and beg Bob to send me out there?
Well, Bob already knows, but we were talking about it yesterday. Actually, did another show, a local show up here. Our series, and I'm sure Doug would argue this, but he still needs to get the motorhome that we talked about for Ryan Priest in Florida, if Doug's still listening. That's a story all by itself. But the reality of it is anytime those cars fire up, it doesn't matter where they are. The drama, the excitement, and the history that goes with them, and then you enter in all the names: Matt Hirschman, Chuck Hosfeld, Danny Jankowiak, Patrick Emmerling, Mike Lee. There's 15 guys when we crank up the engines that can win a race. And if you watched any of them or have been to 3 or 4 of them, you know that. I mean, last year we had races that Chuck Hosfeld literally won by the edge of his bumper at Lancaster on a Thursday night. Mike Levy will be mad that I'm bringing this up, but he spun the tires on a restart at Chicasa, and his teammate Patrick Emmerling was able to slip by with like 2 to go, and he won the race. In that same race, Chuck Hosfeld was coming up through the field on his way to probably passing those couple guys and ran out of fuel because he gambled on weight and everything else to be there at the end, and it backfired on him. So it doesn't matter where we race or the track. It's there's just the drama and excitement that goes with it. And I'm guilty as charged sometimes of, you become a race fan up there watching it happening because you take this pride of what you've created, and you're watching it evolve before you. And, I don't want to be a complete homer, but it's pretty exciting when we get to feature time.
Hey, speaking of being a homer, Spencer Speedway, obviously you're doing a lot there this year, and I haven't been to Spencer in like forever, honestly, since I think my dad brought me to Spencer before I could even drive. Maybe I did drive there once or twice before moving south. But at the same time, I digress. How are things looking for Spencer this year? I know you're excited. 65th anniversary this year. I heard something about that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we when we moved the Tommy Tony back to Lancaster, I didn't want the fans to lose out. Neither did our partner Jeff DeMink there. And Jeff, Jeff's never been a promoter in his life, and the guy has stepped in and done an outstanding, incredible job of helping us there. He's based in Ontario, New York, and he's got the same passion that all of us do, and Spencer's his home track, no different than you with Riverhead, Bob. I mean, your home track never leaves you, and that's always the place you're most passionate about. So what we did was when we moved Tommy Tony, we brought we brought in another 100-lap event, and being that it's the 65th year of Spencer's operation, we'll have a little bit of an anniversary celebration that night. And we kick off in a couple weeks with the Don Pratt tribute race. We all know the Don Pratt story. It's a pretty sad one, but no one ever really did anything for Donnie after it happened, and we've got some guys that were on his crew and stuff. Spencer was one of his home tracks, so that came together. We've got some sportsman and super stock specials going on there. We're about to announce that our July event will be a kids' night, focusing solely on kids and getting them involved with the Mike Rod clubs and various agencies in the area. So a lot of exciting things going on there. And then we'll close out the season with what now has become the Maynard Troyer Classic. So Troyer race cars right in Rochester, it kind of all fell together, and we'll have an exciting night just like we did last year when we did the tribute to Pop's Lady Race.
Man, that last modified that Don had, that was a good-looking machine. Talking to Kobe and Joe this morning, man, it just kind of drives me back down memory lane. It's awesome talking to you, Joe. I know this weekend's going to be a big weekend for you, kicking off the RC Modified Series at Chemung. I look forward to, I can't get there. I'm in Toledo for the ARCA Menard Series on MAV TV, but I'll be certainly tuning into the updates coming out of Chemung this Saturday night. Like I said, just down the road from Watkins Glen. If you're in the tri-state area, well, I haven't said that in a long time, but if you're in that area, you need to get out to see Joe and Amy Scott Nicky's ROC Modified Series at Chemung on Saturday night. Wish you the best of luck, Joe, and remember, I know we're both busy, but we got to talk so we can iron out our program and make sure that we get that set for the series and the racers, because we're looking forward to being part of RC again this year.
Well, we're looking forward to having you guys, and thanks for all you do, Bob, and I'm sure we'll be talking during the week.
Absolutely. And looking forward to some news that Joe just actually talked about on our PFC Performance Hotline, a little adjustment maybe to the point system in terms of the ROC Modified Series. So I look for that story to come on speed51.com today as well. Zach, you need to get up to an RC Modified race, especially the ROC 250. That Al Gerber trophy is just amazing. You talk about, just famous, iconic trophies in short track racing. For me, there's really none more iconic than that big old trophy that they give away to the ROC 250 winner, something that I, as a kid, just longed to see going to Pocono and Flemington, and my dad before me, at Langhorne and Trenton and so forth. That trophy is a coveted prize in the northeastern part of the United States.
I can't help but smile anytime I hear you even talk about those stories growing up and watching those races. And, maybe sooner or later I'll be able to get up there, because it's definitely something that if it puts that much of a smile on your face, with all the races you've seen, then it has to be a pretty big deal.
Absolutely. We're going to have to get you up there to Modified Country. By the way, I was going over schedule for July.
Yes.
I got the Montana 200 up for grabs, too, and your name is looking good for the Montana 200. What do you think?
I'm telling you, that sounds pretty good.
Oh, Mark Keeler's mad. He wants to go. There's that trophy.
The trophy. Yes.
There's the Al Gerber trophy for the Race of Champions 250, and it's got all of the names of those who have graced victory lane adorned to the side of that trophy. And we're talking about some great racetracks all over the Northeast. My days really began at Pocono in Pennsylvania, and it was so much fun. I know Pocono gets a hard knock sometimes from some of the NASCAR community. Oh, man, why do we go there? And people say it's a dump and that sort of thing. I disagree. When I went there as a kid, the Cup Series was cool, but man, when we went to the ROC race, the Race of Champions, we would get those reserve seats. I think we had the same reserve seats for the existence that race was there. My dad and mom would buy them, and we would go there and sit in those seats. And then I got to cover that race as a journalist when I was like 14 years old and had to lie about my age to get in the pit area. And they used to have those garages, and Charlie Jerzombeck and Richie Evans and George Brunhusel and all those guys, Maynard Troyer and Jerry Cook, and you even the street stocks, they call them late models. I don't know why they did that. But anyway, Paul McInerney and Buzzy Rudiman and Buzzy Erickson, and all those guys, it was very interesting back then because you would have oodles of race cars. I mean, the car count for the modifieds back in the day was like 70 race cars. And the car count for the street stocks was over 100.
Oh my gosh!
You talk about some really cool racing. The Race of Champions has that legacy, has that history, and it all kicks off with the ROC Modified Series this Saturday night at Chemung Speedrome in New York. You gotta be there. We still have 24 minutes remaining, and we're going to try to squeeze in 2 or 3 more guests. Yes, we got plenty to talk about. Hashtag more short tracks here on the Morning Bullring.
Speed 51's video network, where the battles are legendary. Get the full picture on short track racing. We'll take you behind the scenes.
Just a meathead.
Your track, your driver, your sport, your passion. Dirt, late models, modifieds, and more. Race highlights, recaps, interviews, and thousands of on-demand videos. Speed 51 Network, short track racers' home for the best video coverage.
It's Bristol, baby. The Short Track U.S. Nationals return to Bristol Motor Speedway. For tickets, visit bristolmotorspeedway.com/tickets.
Plenty of cool racing coming up this weekend here all over the country. Lakeview Motor Speedway, we've talked about that in South Carolina. The big Dirt Car UMP Modified show on Friday and Saturday night. The Ultimate Southeast Series in action at Modoc Speedway, also in South Carolina. Brownstown Speedway in action as well this Saturday with the American Ethanol Modifieds as well. A lot of racing going on all over the country if Mother Nature cooperates. That's the big question. Yes, we've tried to get in a fast track racing series event at Volunteer Speedway in Bulls Gap, Tennessee. Tried that a couple weekends ago. You were scheduled to go, Zach Evans. Unfortunately, Mother Nature just, putting the damper on that one as well.
Yes, I was going to go to Ace that Friday night with the car store. That one got in, and then the next day we were going to go to Volunteer, and that did not happen. So we ended up going to Nashville and watching it rain there instead, and got that race in that following Sunday.
Well, you are going there this weekend,
yes.
And like yourself, we have another person on our PFC Performance Hotline that is looking forward to going to Volunteer Speedway, a first-time caller for the Fast Track Racing Series. Jensen Ford, how you doing? Good morning on the Morning Bullring.
Good morning. Doing good. How are you all?
I'm pretty good. And Jensen, we actually had to wake him up this morning, I think. I apologize if we did because, we were a little late in putting together this program, which runs every Monday morning on Speed 51 from 7 a.m. to 9:30-ish. And I had to text Jensen this morning and say, hey, can we call you this morning? Because we want to talk to some of the players that's going to be at Volunteer Speedway this weekend. So I apologize if we woke you.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was up.
Okay, good. So I want to know about going to Volunteer Speedway in Bulls Gap, Tennessee this weekend. What's that place like for you? How much are you looking forward to this event?
For me, it's only an hour down the road for me. That's where I grew up. When I first started racing, I've raced there for a long time. Here in the last recent years, we've been traveling around some. They hadn't had a fast track race there in several years, and I'm looking forward to going back. Bulls Gap's pretty different from any other racetrack you go to. It's very high very, very, very fast. Even when it's slick, it's still fast. That makes it hard for some of these guys that travel. They can't come in and get a hold of the place. They don't know. They've never seen anything like it. But hopefully, we'll have a little bit of a home advantage this weekend whenever everybody comes in.
Certainly, I think you could very well have a home track advantage. You run well there in the past, even when it has been some of these bigger shows. But growing up there and racing there, developing as a young driver there, how much has that helped you now that you travel more, that you raced it somewhere so challenging and so fast starting out?
Whenever I first started racing at Bulls Gap on a weekly deal, you had Shannon Buckingham and all these really, really tough guys you had to race against, and it made me a better racer. But at the same time, it hurt me for everywhere else. I was so used to the speed, and then you go somewhere where you had to slow down and on these flatter tracks and stuff, and it hurt me in ways. But at the same time, I was always so used to going fast, it didn't matter the track condition. But, I enjoyed growing up and racing at the Gap, and I think it's helped me more than hurt me. Like I say, a lot of these guys that come in, they don't know how to act at this place. It's the different animal.
I could tell you like the fast racetracks because you won at Tazewell Speedway in Tennessee earlier this year as well. So those fast tracks seem to be in your repertoire for sure in terms of your resume. So I can't say that word, but that's okay. But
Close enough.
In terms of this weekend, what do you think the competition is going to be like? I know you're going to be one of the favorites to win that race at Bulls Gap.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like we always got a shot anywhere we go. If the track's fast, the big tracks, we're usually good on those, better than some of the smaller stuff we go to. But I feel like no matter who comes in, I feel like we got a shot to win. We've got our program going pretty good right now. We've had some very bad luck this year, but we've been fast. We've got speed, and I feel like we can translate our speed right over to Bulls Gap. So we'll just have to see who all shows up. I know there's several other big races going on that weekend, but hopefully they get a real good car count.
We're expecting a pretty good car count at Bulls Gap, Tennessee Volunteer Speedway this Saturday night under the lights there just down the road from the Bristol Motor Speedway. Going to be a lot of fun. You can also watch that race live if you're not in the area. You can watch that race live on speed51.com. We will be highlighting the Fast Track Racing Series as the official video home of Fast Track and Ultimate throughout the year. I know Toccoa wasn't that great for you, dude, but I know you want to rebound here this weekend. What are in the plans for you this year? Are we going after that Fast Track Championship? What's going on with you?
We at the start of the year we've ran 3 different series, and we didn't really have any plans on running for any championships. But if we stay up in the points in any of these, we might continue following the Fast Track or one of these others. I don't know. It just depends. Toccoa, we had a fast car down there and had a little bit of driver error. But, that happens if you're going to race. But for the most part, we're just going to try to hit the bigger races. The closer to home's better. But we plan on racing with Fast Track quite a bit and just hitting these bigger shows when they come along.
Well, your second in Fast Track points back in a couple of years ago, had that win there at Toccoa. What do you like about in terms of Fast Track racing and the pro late models? I know a lot of people call them crate, but sometimes there's a stigma around that. We like to call them pro late models like the Fast Track Racing Series does. What do you like about that style of racing?
It's competitive. Everybody's pretty much got the same stuff. It's hard to get an advantage. It makes you go to work. As a driver and work on your car, get your setup better. There's always places to gain speed in these, and it's a little harder with this spec engine, because everybody's pretty well equal on horsepower. But I do like that, and I like the fact, when they tech everything, and that you're racing against the same motor as what you got in. If I get beat with somebody and we think they're illegal or whatever, and we turn them down, they're legal, then that makes us go back to work and get back on our setup program and see what we need to do there. But it's very competitive. It's as a driver, you have to be perfect all the time. Like on the Lucas Oil or these bigger engine cars, if you make a mistake, within 50 foot, you can get back what mistake you made. In these crate cars, if you make a mistake, that's 3 positions automatically. I mean, it's just crazy how even everybody is, but it makes it interesting for everybody.
Talk about economics in racing, especially for racers, and how much money racing costs and so forth. Obviously, all different levels of racing are a lot of fun to watch, but at the same time, does this style of engine, help the almighty wallet, honestly, and allow you to maybe even race a little bit more than you maybe could if you were just going super racing?
It allows people that don't have the budget to be able to go do it. Yes, it does. People that's got money who want to spend money no matter what in racing, and that's kind of bad, but they're going to spend it on something. But as a racer, you should know that even if you don't have that money to spend, you can work on your car and still run with that guy that's spending all the money. And I think that's one thing that makes this crate racing so attractable to all racers, really. Because you got a shot no matter what.
Well, Jensen, we appreciate you coming on the show. Wish you the best of luck. We'll be there with our live cameras at Volunteer Speedway, your home track, so to speak. And I know you're going to be going after that checkered flag. We wish you the best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you. We'll see you all there.
You got it, Jensen Ford. Good-looking machine for him, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I should have asked him about the green color, because my dad was a green racer, in terms of a green car. And supposedly that's bad luck. He had a little bad luck, Jensen did, at Toccoa earlier this year. And the Fast Track Racing Series will return there later on in the year to that Georgia racetrack. But hopefully the green will be providing with some good luck when we get to Volunteer Speedway in Bulls Gap, Tennessee on Saturday night.
It's always funny that you some guys believe in every superstition in the book and then even make up their own superstitions. They got to have their lucky underwear or their socks or whatever, and then you've got some guys that just, I don't mind having a green card, number 13, and eating peanuts in the pits. What of it? I'm just trying to live my life, man.
Just don't pick up any loose change. Butch Miller told me that one time. Don't touch. If there's a penny or a quarter or whatever, don't pick it up at the racetrack. That's bad luck. Racers aren't superstitious at all, are they?
Not at all.
One of the worst ones is Jerry Simons at New Smyrna. You don't go anywhere near his pit stall with peanuts. I think it was Jerry that, I actually got yelled at one of my first times out at that track because I was walking around with peanuts, and it was just basically get them out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
But green cars aren't always bad luck.
Not always. Mike Eddy proved that.
I was just going to say, in the Midwest, they weren't bad luck.
The polar bear, absolutely. But, folks, remember, we are the official video home, Speed 51 is, of the Ultimate Super Late Model Series across the country, as well as the Fast Track Racing Series. Ultimate Southeast in action on Saturday at Modoc Speedway there in South Carolina. And then, of course, the Fast Track Racing Series Saturday night at Volunteer Speedway. The World Championship, the Fast Track World Championship, coming up mid-September. That'll be at Virginia Motor Speedway, the USA 100 coming up. That'll be actually a combination event for Ultimate as well as the Fast Track Racing Series with the Super and the Pro Late models in June. That will be a blast to get to Virginia Motor Speedway there in Jamaica, Virginia. So we're going to have a lot of big announcements to come, as well as some more stuff that Speed 51 is going to be doing with the Fast Track Racing Series and the Ultimate brand of Super Late Model Racing as well. I think right now what we're going to do is, I believe we have some video ready from Stockton Speedway out in California. I have not seen this, but I understand a competitor was ticked off, and you can see that right there. A little bit of a loop right now, and Tom Ryan's going to get on to kind of explain what we're seeing.
We actually have Brandon Paul on the line.
Brandon
He's the one
Paul's
that
on the line.
shared the video.
Okay, Brandon Paul. So what's going on here from Stockton Speedway out in California this past weekend?
Well, it was actually, and I didn't know this until looking into it further. It was actually 2 weekends ago.
2 weekends ago.
The way I found it is Michael Hill commented on our Facebook page and asked if we had seen this video of a driver going backwards under yellow. And I said, well, no. Do you have a link? Well, he sent a link, and here we are watching it.
Is that the Madhouse, by the way? It looks like the Madhouse, something that would happen at Bowman Gray Stadium.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does. So basically the black car that you're seeing driving backwards is driven by Chad Holman. And then the other car that he collided with was Christian Roche. So those two were battling on the racetrack for the third position in a late model feature at Stockton 99 Speedway in California. And Chad Holman apparently didn't like something that Christian Roche did. And you're seeing what he did to retaliate. And actually, I was doing some research on this, and Holman has now been suspended indefinitely by the racetrack for the actions that you're seeing right here.
Wow. Well, we're going to have to do a story on that on speed51.com. You can bring it back up. I'm actually just interested to watch it.
We're starting the beginning of it again.
You know, because the interesting thing is the last time I saw this happen was Stephen Assey and William Byron, I believe, at the Snowball Derby a couple of years ago when Byron got into Stephen Assey. And Assey got ticked off and under caution just drove into the side of the number 9 in the super late model race down there at Five Flags Speedway. Listen, my dad's done this. He's gotten dumped on the racetrack. I told the story in a figure 8 race at Islip Speedway, put the car back in gear and nailed the guy in the driver's door. Emotions get hot, honestly, at the racetrack when something happens. And man, that's a tough way, and a lot of damaged race cars right there from both angles. Because if you think about it, it looked like the black car wasn't damaged too much, but now after the hit right here, boom, okay, it is, and that crew has to do some work to that car. The other guy has to do work to that car as well. So a lot of money down the drain right there in an act of, to some degree, just hot-headedness, let's call it that. I don't know what precipitated this, and I'm sure it was some contact, and I've been the same person, and I've railed a car when I drive after I got dumped or I felt like I got dumped at the racetrack. But at the same time, what you got to really think about here is the almighty dollar and the fact that you're costing yourself or your car owner money and your crew some heartache for having to fix those race cars.
Isn't the thing, too, like, I've been around demolition derbies and stuff. Aren't you supposed to use the rear of the car? The front of the car is going to cause more damage. At least use the rear, put it in reverse. You see the guy coming, and go for the demolition derby hit. Don't go nose to nose. You know,
this is either a late model or a limited late model. You can't tell with bodies on these race cars anymore. I don't know if it's a stock front clip car or whether it's just a tubular chassis or what it is. But the bottom line is, you're right. The engine is in the front half of the car. You could really do damage to your engine, and that's going to cost a whole heck of a lot, rather than the rear. But at the same time, you get the fuel cell in the rear. You just don't play demo derby with these cars. Listen, if you're going to do something, okay, get back out on the racetrack and do like Zane Smith did to Michael Self last year. And I'm not saying that I condone this, but if you're going to get somebody back, get them back good when it counts. Don't wreck yourself, spin them out, kind of rub them up against the wall. Zane Smith, really did a lot of damage to Michael Self last year at Salem Speedway in the Arca Menard Series event. But be tactful, I guess, is what I'm saying about your revenge. Listen, this guy's got a car. Again, I don't know if he owns it, his family owns it, or a team owner owns it, but now they cannot compete there for the remainder of the year. So he did a lot of damage to the race car, did a lot of damage for himself. He can't run this year. So be smart about how you're going to get your revenge. I think that's the message that I'm trying to send.
I can't think about ARCA and Payback without thinking about Scott Speed and Ricky Stenhouse.
Oh, my Toledo, baby. Woo! That was something else back in the day. A lot of fun to watch that. And Payback is part of our sport, Brandon. It's just something that happens. And a lot of guys, to some degree, I applaud the fact that people are so passionate that they want to do something like that. I think that's kind of stupid because it's hurting all different aspects, the racetrack, the racer, the team, you name it. Be smart about how you pay somebody back. I think that's the message I'm saying, Brandon.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I mentioned the whole demolition derby no-no, and the other part of the no-no is in the demolition derby, you never hit the driver's side door. He went right for the driver's side door, and that's luckily nobody was injured. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, going back to the other on-track incident we had there with Lee Pulliam and Philip Morris and Philip Morris's crew chief there. Luckily we're able to talk about this without somebody being hurt, because that's always what you have to worry about, and that's when obviously you have to worry about things getting too far, going too far. So, but luckily everybody was nobody got injured in this incident. Just a lot of money, like you said, in tore up race cars.
Well, I look forward to the Monday morning conversation on Speed 51 in terms of a story this week with vantage points from both racers and maybe even the racetrack or whatever. So this is something that we're going to hunt down, and obviously some spectacular video right here. Watch this. Click, click, boom! Right there into the door. Scary situation at Stockton out in California. Brandon Paul, we appreciate you coming on and updating us on that. That's what we love about Brandon Paul. We're going to try one more call. Mark Keeler, we're going to have rush hour here in the final few minutes of the show. Let's get Alan Dietz on the line. I know he's very passionate about Lakeview Motor Speedway, what we got coming up this weekend. Of course, we got a big weekend on the Speed 51 Video Network. Connor Sullivan talking about a race at Lee USA Speedway as well. I believe Granite State Pro Stocks as well as the Modified Racing Series going to be in action there on Sunday. And I know Connor's looking forward to that event. That event will be live on the Speed 51 Video Network as well. So a lot of good racing coming up. Be a subscriber to the Speed 51 Video Network. You can complain all you want about $9.99. I know if you go out for lunch, you're going to spend probably that or more. Just $9.99 a month gets you. I was just doing some fact and figures in terms of what we're offering this year. More than 80 races and growing live for the Speed 51 Video Premium subscribers, okay, for the network members. And then, honestly, thousands of video. Last year, we put over 1,000 videos up of highlights, interviews, music videos, onboard footage, and more. So we'll be all over the map this week, and make sure you subscribe to the Speed 51 Video Network. Do we have Alan Dietz on the PFC Performance Hotline? Not yet. You're calling him now. Mark Keeler doing his diligent job back there. What do you think? You're not coming with us to Lakeview.
I'm not.
I'll be at the Arca Menard Series event in Toledo Speedway. That'll be a lot of fun. Obviously, Christian Eckes coming off the big win at Nashville a couple weekends ago. You can see that live on Lucas Oil Racing TV or live on network television with MAV TV.
Definitely a lot of big-time events going on this weekend all over the board. We've talked to Joe Scott Nicky with Race of Champions kicking off. I'm going to Volunteer. Cars Tour going to Motor Mile, going back to there it'll be the first time the series has been there since their first year in 2015. Just a lot of stuff going on this weekend.
Carolina Clash at Carolina Speedway in Gastonia, North Carolina. That'll be on Friday night. The Spring National Series continues throughout the weekend as well for that form of dirt late model racing. Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series in action. USACs at Tri-City Speedway, Granite City, Pontoon Beach, Illinois. That'll be a lot of fun. That's the only track that I know that's in two hometowns. I've heard Pontoon Beach and I've heard Granite City. People say both. Williams Grove with the World of Outlaws, the sprint cars in action. Of course, super late models at Berlin Raceway. Birch Run Speedway in Michigan with the Jeg Sea All-Stars Tour. That will be a lot of fun for those pro late models up there. The Madhouse in action. We talked about Chemung. I go through my list here. USAC also going to Federated Auto Parts Speedway, I-55 Raceway in Missouri. Harris Speedway in South Carolina with the sprint cars. Motor Mile Speedway with the Cars Tour you talked about. Modoc Raceway, Ultimate Southeast, that brand of racing going to be in action there. Sonoa Raceway with the Southern All-Stars. The Arca Midwest Tour at State Park Speedway. That's a Bullring. You're going to love to see that. That will be live on the Speed 51 Video Network as well. So much racing going on. Devil's Bowl Speedway with a big Sportsman modified race for their season opener on Sunday. And as I mentioned, Lee USA Speedway in New Hampshire. That'll be the Granite State Pro Stock Series as well as the Modified Racing Series and the NEMA Midgets in action at Lee USA on Sunday, live on the Speed 51 Video Network. But on our PFC Performance Hotline right now, we have the man, the myth, and the legend all in one. He's got to have three different titles. Alan Dietz, voice of the Pro All-Star Series and voice of Lakeview Motor Speedway in South Carolina. How much are you looking forward to this big show on Friday and Saturday night this weekend, Alan?
Oh, I can't wait, Bob. This is going to be a huge race with the UMP Modifieds, the Dirt Cup Challenge, and it's going to be a whole weekend. Camping will start on Wednesday. There'll be a test and tune on Thursday, and then actually racing on Friday and Saturday, which we can get into a little bit more. But, Justin Haley's coming, David Rudiman's coming, just to name a couple. And, we expect a big field of UMP modifieds. And I know when we first started talking about airing this race on MAV TV, one of the appeals for Bill Long and the folks with the Dirt Cup Challenge, and the same with Scott Tripp and everybody over at Lakeview, was, when you watch MAV, you see a lot of the Midwestern UMP modifieds and the IMCA style modifieds, but not a lot of the UMP modifieds in the Southeast. So with Short Track America and what you're trying to do with Short Track America to give a really broad swath of short track racing, from the mini sprints at Millbridge up to, super late models and things of that nature on asphalt and dirt. This is perfect, and I think it's going to be a great show, and the weather's looking really good right now, knock on wood.
Hey, it's a perfect vacation destination. Hey, honey, we're going to go to the beach. Myrtle Beach is just down the road. But by the way, we're going to go to a couple of races on Friday and Saturday night as well. Lakeview Motor Speedway. You mentioned some of the names, NASCAR drivers. Justin Haley going to be there. David Rudiman, the former NASCAR Cup Series winner, going to be there. We had him on the morning Bullring just a little while ago. Matt Crafton right now possibly coming, the NASCAR Truck Series champion many times over, thinking about coming as well. Flying Ryan Ayers from North Carolina. People coming from all over, North Carolina, Florida, Kentucky, Tennessee, you name it. Ryan Toole, Daniel Parker, Austin Holcomb, Will Long, just some of the names that will be at Lakeview Motor Speedway on Saturday night for that big Dirt Car UMP open wheel show. You got to come out. You got to support Scott Tripp and his staff at Lakeview Motor Speedway. Just doing a fantastic job. Alan, you've seen this. We went in January to introduce myself to Lakeview Motor Speedway, and I was impressed, but you've seen the transformation of Lakeview Motor Speedway go from basically a lost speedway to what it is right now, and it's incredible the work that has been done to that place.
Well, a lot of people associate me with asphalt racing, but, whenever I was growing up back in the 80s, Lakeview's only, 10 minutes from where I grew up at, and all the racetracks, in that part of South Carolina were dirt. And then about 87, they all converted to asphalt with the exception of Lakeview. And it went away in the late 80s. It came back in the 90s and had some Habitampa races and some big super late model shows. And then it kind of went away again in the 2000s. And, it's funny because I didn't know Scott Tripp or any of those folks, and I saw what they were doing at Lakeview and what they were talking about, and a couple of things caught my eye that, that they were going to update the facility as you've seen, and there's still things that they want to do. They've added a ton, literally, of clay to that racetrack all the way around in the turns. They just put some more back on the front straightaway, which probably hadn't seen new clay on it in at least 20 years. And but the other thing that intrigued me about what they were doing at Lakeview was that they were partnering with Fayetteville Motor Speedway, and Fayetteville's got a long history of having big races and things like that. But they were going to partner on their rules, and the other thing they were going to partner on was they were. We're at a place at a lot of racetracks, not all racetracks, but at a lot of racetracks where running weekly just doesn't work. And so Fayetteville and Lakeview decided to not really alternate weekends because, Fayetteville might run 2 weeks in a row, but Lakeview takes those weekends off and vice versa. And you may have some drivers that want to run both racetracks to run every week, but you have some guys that want to run just one of the racetracks and take weekends off. So it's worked well. I've liked the vision that they've had. MAV TV and Speed 51 were a big part of that vision towards the end of last year, and having relationships with both of you, I got Scott in touch with you, and we're going to have this race on MAV. We're going to have it on Speed 51 pay-per-view. Same with the Ultimate race in June, and I just think we're going to build on that relationship, just like everything else they've done since they bought the racetrack.
Hey, before we let you go, obviously the big show is this Friday and Saturday night at Lakeview Motor Speedway, and that's going to be a blast with the dirt car UMP-style modifieds at the racetrack with some good money on the line and some big names coming to compete as well. But you mentioned that Ultimate Southeast Super Late Model Show on June 29th at Lakeview Motor Speedway. That, too, will be a tape-delayed broadcast on Speed 51 Short Track America on MAV TV. The ultimate super late models coming to Lakeview. How exciting is that going to be?
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, it's the first time in almost 25 years that you're going to see super late models race at Lakeview. And again, like I said, when the Heavy Tampa series started, which eventually turned into what's the Lucas Oil series now, Lakeview was one of the first racetracks whenever Heavy Tampa really started expanding. But as things have changed, our weekly late model division, same at Fayetteville and a lot of other racetracks, are a limited late model now. And I think you're going to even see more, crate late models in the future, possibly even at Lakeview. But to have the super late models come in and have those touring guys, and, you've seen what Ross Bales has done this year. He's one of the guys that came out of those ranks. I think it's going to be just awesome. And again, with what they've done to the racetrack as far as adding clay and the prep and all the things that they're doing, I think it's going to be unbelievable. But it's, at these racetracks in the Eastern Carolinas, they tend to get one grooved sometimes. So I think qualifying will be important. Heat races will be important. But I think you're going to see, with the new clay on the racetrack, you're going to see guys make passes. And the one thing I want to say, too, before you let me go is, as Bob said, we're racing Friday and Saturday night. The UMP modifieds will be racing for $1,500 to win on Friday night, $3,000 on Saturday night. The 602 modifieds, we had over 20 of those there the last time we raced with the Mideast Modified Series. I expect a lot of 602 modifiers because they're racing Friday and Saturday night, so they can double their payday. And then our weekly divisions at Lakeview, we're going to split them. Some will run Friday night and the others will run Saturday night. Going to have kids' activities, fireworks, ride-alongs in our Lakeview McQueen late model. I mean, it's going to be a really great weekend, and we're excited about it for sure.
I'm excited about it as well. I'm disappointed to some degree that I won't be able to be there on Friday and Saturday night, kind of bumming a little bit. I'll be there on Thursday. We're going to be setting up with our Speed 51 and MAV TV cameras. Then I'm going off to Toledo Speedway for the Arca Menard Series event. But, Alan, just do me a favor. Keep Zach, Tom, and Mark in order there, okay? Just help me out there.
Well, I'll do the best I can. I know that's a hard task.
Yeah, it is sometimes. Actually, Zach's not going to be there. I forgot about that.
You're going to worry about me.
You're going to volunteer for the Fast Track series, and I want to see Fast Track at Lakeview Motor Speedway. We're going to have to talk to Scott about that a little bit. But
I agree.
You do have Brandon Paul coming down from Maine and Daryl Canfield coming down as well. They're excited about pounding the dirt there.
Yeah, that would be like me going to Oxford.
That's right.
And coming down to Lakeview. You know one thing too, Bob, and I know that you appreciate this, but just to show the effort that the folks, Timmy Clemens, the track general manager, what they have done at Lakeview, kind of like what Tim Bryant has done at Pensacola to accommodate Speed 51. But they totally took your suggestion with the new deck on top of the press box to have a hatch and you can climb up and get the cameras up there and stuff, but also building decks in turn 1 and in turn 3 specifically to get those great shots that you could only get with Speed 51 and MAV TV.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. You got to get out there to Lakeview Motor Speedway this Saturday. But if you're in New England or the Midwest or out west or deep south or whatever, and you can't make it there, we understand that. We try to provide you with the opportunity to watch the races. You can see it live on the Speed 51 video network. It'll be 4 cameras for that. But when we get to the enhanced broadcast on Speed 51 Short Track America on MAV TV, you're talking about 5-man cameras, several speed shots. We're going to have onboard cameras as well, so it'll be a lot of fun. Alan, like I said, keep the boys in line, and I look forward to hearing your voice on the stream this weekend, buddy.
Oh, no problem. We're excited about it, and I appreciate you letting us talk about it. And We'll have to talk about some asphalt racing sometime soon, too. Well, you never know what we have up our sleeves with past do you, Bob.
Oh, look at that. You never know. Absolutely. The big announcement for Lanier in November, that was a few weeks ago. So maybe more in store for the Pro All-Star Series. We're all looking forward to going back to Brazelton, Georgia, and getting that Lanier pavement back to where it should be with Super Late Model Racing. We appreciate you for joining us, Alan.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Bob.
You got it. Alan Dietz here, voice of the Pro All-Star Series, voice of Lakeview Motor Speedway, and you're gonna love. Obviously, we've been there already this year, but you're gonna love seeing that Fast Track Series on Volunteer Speedway this Saturday night. I know you're looking forward to that.
I am, and that first trip was just so enjoyable. I can't stop gushing about it. Honestly, it was just such a neat little racetrack, and even from when you first walk in and the classic race memorabilia for sale and the
got some good posters there.
Yeah. And the on-track product is incredible, and I have no doubt that, if Mother Nature will give us just one weekend, it's got to be a good time.
Hey, Tom, let's get on the mic here. Mark, we should cue some funky music or something. Okay, Tom, I want to see the shot here from Tom Ryan. Okay, give me your best anti-rain dance.
Uh-oh.
That's the sprinkler. How is that an anti-rain?
What are you doing?
That will go down in the lore of the morning
you got
Bullring.
Some Running Man.
Mark, I'm not even going to ask you a question. I think we need to just go out in that. Keep on dancing. Thanks for watching the morning Bullring here on Speed 51. Oh, my.